Since we really have no totally black-owned media that will speak for us and express our interests without having to answer to someone above them, telling them what we can say and what we can't say, it seems like social media or the internet is really the only place or the last place that we can find anyone who speaks for the black person without having to answer to someone. So it's good that we start to listen and subscribe to these channels. This is a really interesting topic that we all should have a conversation about. We can talk all day long about who has the best chicken, Popeyes or Church's chicken. But matters that pertain to our welfare in this country, we tend to ignore. This is one reason why people are positioning themselves above us and pushing us further to the back of the line. First, listen as Antonio Moore from Tone Talks as he lays down the framework for this discussion. Next, Yvette Carnell from Breaking Brown will show you how people are playing us. At the end of her talk, listen to what some of her callers reveal, especially those that are not DOS. Lastly, we will listen to what callers from the last show of Africans have to say about how we are viewed as wild animals by most, but not all Africans, and how they position themselves. This is going to take a minute, but I believe it's really important. We ought to have this conversation.
Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks.
This is Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks. I wanted to have a brief discussion this Friday about everything from Lovey to Africans and Caribbeans in America. Have a productive discussion, kind of explain the whole position of American DOS and the reality of what the Angela Project out of Louisville is really trying to do with Jesse Jackson and pushing this whole thing forward so that we can move towards reparations. So I look at this thing and I'm starting to frame the whole reality of what is it we're talking about when we talk about American DOS and why is it important. You know, for a lot of people, they are trying to relegate this thing to a small niche, but this is the ball game. When I say that, I mean you can't bring a reparations claim until you classify the group. And right now what has happened is we have a group just mishmashed with a bunch of people who have no claim on America and what America did. So when you look at the statement by Obama, why should, that he made to Ta-Nehisi Coates in his My President is Black piece, you start to understand why it's a problem for Obama to have spoken for African Americans, the American DOS, on the issue of reparations. You know, you received $400,000 from your white grandmama, and then you're Kenyan on the other side, but yet they ask you the question or put you in a position where you can impact our reparations that we need to survive in a wealth calcifying America. And I think for a lot of people that's hard to understand because we haven't stood up for ourselves, because we have been open armed. I start off with a basic understanding of black folk here in America. And what you gotta see is that for over 100 years, I would say, we had every option to start tribes, and we never did. Meaning, I in Los Angeles can go to Philadelphia, cut hair, and nobody's gonna say, "Hey, you from LA? Get out of my barbershop." I don't think we have an understanding of what tribes do in Africa. We don't have an understanding of countries in Africa. We just think of Africa as a place, and it's not a place. It's a set of tribes doing different things all throughout all 50 plus countries. And I just feel in many ways the best way I can illustrate that is in a piece that I wrote. African Americans are more than just Africans in America, and I really think you should go read that. It's on your web. Initially it was brought about because there was an article on City Lab done by the Atlantic by an African woman that was utterly wrong. City Lab to write a counterpiece basically because of the cultish, tribish kind of culture they had created. The editor was also from the same country as the writer, and so Your Web, luckily, owned by Lee Bailey, allowed me to put my piece up in whole. And I just want to share a section with you to give you guys context. You can read the whole piece. African American life is defined by the shadow of its brutal domestic history. Born to a lineage cast from the iron of slave shackles and outlined in Federal Housing Administration lines pinned with the red blood drained from native black American communities over the course of centuries, black Americans are a people mixed with slave owner and slave who were deliberately shut out of virtually all access to wealth for nearly 400 years. Indeed, as harsh as the above description is, it may in fact understate the extent to which native black disadvantage provided the raw materials necessary to build the richest country on earth. Native descendants of American slaves, or American DOS, literally served as the very currency that undergirded the early American economy. Moving down some in the piece. But isn't that the new America? One where we would rather hear about the eclectic backgrounds of Adichie or Obama rather than talk about one like my own? While I was born to teenage parents from Alabama and Mississippi, Adichie was born to university professionals from Nigeria. There is no PhD or cosmopolitanism in my childhood, only the cost of having neither grandfather, and a lineage that chained me to a family tree rooted in the confusion American slavery left behind. But also there's no running, only demands. When you deal with my voice, it becomes clear that I am a problem for America, a living testament to the specific injustice that made the United States of America the richest country in the world. While in contrast, showcasing Adichie is merely the band-aid solution for the wound that was inflicted on slaves and their descendants, a wound that continues to fester in black urban centers across the nation. In that same New York article about Adichie, it was stated that this is a statement from a New York article on a writer named Adichie, that's a Nigerian, I believe. She wants to raise her child in Nigeria because she wants her to be protected as she herself was protected growing up there. Not knowing she is black, someday she will talk to her about what it means to be black, but not yet. She wants her daughter to be in a place where race, as she encountered it in America, does not exist. And then I say, I instead stand at the head of the Angela Project alongside other luminaries in the black community. We are backed by a nationwide coalition of white and black pastors, all marching toward commemorating the 400th year since the first slave, Angela, was dropped in Point Comfort, Virginia in 1619, while also pushing toward a long overdue national discussion on reparations. So I read that to you because I don't think we really understand the games that are being played. And I'm going to bring Lovey Ajayi in right now about blackness. What Adichie speaks to is you don't need the concept of blackness if your country black. Let me say that again. The games that are being played are built around the idea that blackness exists in the same form that it is in America in these other places, and it just doesn't. They didn't have chattel slavery no matter what game they play. They didn't have the kind of oppression where your master breaks into your house and rapes you and leaves you with a mixed child that you are forced to love. That you do love because it is your child. I say this to you because you have Lovey Ajayi talking about blackness. But then you have Adichie explaining that Nigeria is a hideaway from the blackness of America. Follow me. There's a lot of people talking that shouldn't be in the room. I didn't put them there. Y'all elevate them because they look just like us. But they're not like us. And I'm not doing this for separatism. They already separated themselves. Yoruba, Igbo, all these different tribes. I don't have a problem with them having their tribes. What I have a problem with is that the cost of them being so separate is entrenched into a black America that's open-armed. I can't do service to this without going through the tweets by Lovey Ajayi. Lovey Ajayi is a Nigerian, came here at 9 and has been elevated to some kind of status. She wrote a book, I Am Judging You. We'll get back to that. That book was optioned by Shonda Rhimes. Understand, I don't do this from a place of jealousy or anything. I love to see black people do well, but not at the expense of my family. You know, I did the same thing. I optioned Freeway Rick's story. Deadline covered it the same way. Doesn't mean that you're there yet, but it's a good first step. But I'm saying to you today that this woman, the one that's in front of us, is a problem, and she reflects a larger problem. She just accidentally said it out loud. When I say accidentally, she was trying to infuse herself in the black culture by spitting on the American DOS culture. Let me read these tweets and then you can come with your own opinion on them. The first one, @JustFlowing. This is all written by Lovey Ajayi on her Twitter throughout the years. This one is from December 2nd, 2010. Me, Akata, and again, Akata explained by Lovey herself, is wild animal, a term used to describe American DOS. We are wild animals. That's not me saying it. Lovey said this. Me, Akata, a whole me, a bed come out from here. With that, nothing but Najai pumps through this blood or Yoruba, laughing my ass off. Next one, epic cry, slave cry. And we'll deal with the problems. The problems with slavery and West Africans in a second. Epic slave cry, retweet. Morgan Freeman went blind from staring at the Big Bang. Next one, January 12, 2010. Can someone explain why black folks don't like Haitians? Is it envy from being able to end slavery quicker than America? Shots fired. Next one. Weeks in my tea. Why you crying, Miss Sophia? Cause I don't know y'all no more. Epic slave cry. Here's a woman that's misspelling stuff on purpose to blackface and coon. Black people that had broken English because they couldn't speak or learn to read. Do you understand how awful this is? This is just the beginning. There are hundreds of these. I don't have any understanding of why Shonda Rhimes would option something from her. I don't see why we would support her. But I think there's a larger question. There's a larger question about how much is this a reflection of a larger belief system that some, not all, West Africans have of African Americans. You can go through all of my tweets. You can go through all of my works. I've never disrespected West Africans this way. And I think what you find is that we don't have a cultural, they try to draw this comparative of being in a playground and we used to do this. I'm talking about as grown people, we don't have a cultural way of doing this where we say you buy too many Jordans or you have bad habits or you're not that smart or you're broken families. They have this entrenched in their families to say about our families while they use our culture to get access to the American dream. What do I mean? I'm going to continue with the tweets in a second. What I'm saying to you is that fundamentally, your family, my family, blood, sweat, and tears entrenched us into America in a very unique way in terms of a cultural positioning. That cultural positioning allows for a normalcy that is trying to be accessed by people that just got to America. Ask yourself, when's the last time you seen one of these Nigerians just play themselves? When's the last time you saw Issa Rae's daddy on Insecure? He's Senegalese and he's a doctor. Why we can't get his story? Why we can't see how he believe about American DOS? And Lawrence, her boyfriend, what does he think about her dating a black man from America? Bones buried here, dealing with the cost of slavery. I want to hear that on the show. Oh, you left that out? So, continuing with Lovey's tweets, I'm dead. Shuck and jive game proper. Retweet. Footworking looks like a slave tap dancing over hot coals to me. Foolishness. This is awful. Wendy's feet. This is another one. April 2011. Wendy's feet are the reason slaves created that song, Wade in the Water. It was an instructional Negro spiritual telling her to hide them. Come on, dude. That's not why they did that. Next one. My cousin's name was Dookie. Ghetto for Negroes always come with a nickname that's ridiculous. We're Nigerian. How do we get hood? Next one. And this is 2009. I was at a ghetto funeral from last year for my cousin who was a rapper and got shot. So many spray painted tees with his face. If I were Gucci, this is another one from October 2009. If I were Gucci, I'd ban rappers from buying my shit. They done, D-O-N, purposely. I don't think that we understand what she's doing with these misspellings. She's mimicking, and I'll explain to you in a second in her own words. She's mimicking supposed black lack of intelligence, illiteracy, and it's a coonish kind of way of doing it. It's not appropriate. It's not funny. This is horrible. These are some of the worst tweets I've read from a black person about black people. If I were Gucci, I'd ban rappers from buying my shit. They done made that brand real ghetto. Gucci ought to sue Gucci Mane. FXP Hip Hop. Black women ghetto is if you're 21, your mama is 36, and your granny is 50, and you got a 6-year-old. Well, that comes from a lot of broken family lines. My mama had me at 16. I don't think this is appropriate to say about my mama. I'm offended that this woman has gotten a place in black culture that she has. I'm offended that Shonda optioned anything from her. I find this to be a pivotal moment in black America. A question where we stand up for ourselves or whether we don't. I think in many ways this is about not about divisiveness, it's about recognizing when people don't really like you. There's another one on the side. If you're an urban youth, school with a baby, need your tubes forcibly. This is just awful. This was made as a collage of a bunch of tweets. There's a bunch more. I want to share last few tweets and kind of move on. These are the last four I'll share. Laughing my ass off. My sister just asked me, did Al Sharpton invent Kwanzaa in '84? Child, the shade she just drew. Kwanzaa. How many of the 7 principles can you name besides Jumanji, Jenga, and Moke and Steph? Kwanzaa is a made-up holiday. It actually wasn't. It was a recognition of our lostness. It was an attempt to try to give us something to hold on to. This is what I mean. Like, this is just a problem. They don't even know what's going on. And then they play pity party when we go hard. Then they play pity party. I think in so many instances, American DOS, for us even to get to reparations, we gotta get rid of this whole thing that elevates people that are our class and possibly even our lineage and its enemy that's amongst us. And we gotta look at people individually, but they gotta answer some questions. Now we come on, and she says, I should leave Kwanzaa alone like Africans do. Ooh, did she say that? Yes, he did, girl. She got some nerves. I know, right? All of this is gonna come clear when I bring up how she basically says that she's been mimicking black culture the way she understands it. I don't think you guys understand because she looks like you that she literally studied like poor black people and then mimicked how they talk in the best way that she could. This isn't different than a white person that moves into a neighborhood to teach or something like that and starts saying the vernacular to all wrong to people who actually use that vernacular because that's all they know. And I look at the last one, which is just highly offensive, and I'm gonna read it slow. This is February 2011. In honor of Black History Month, I'ma stop shaming my ancestor and go wash and retwist my locks so they stop looking like slavery and oppression. A woman from Nigeria that don't have any of that in their family just said that offensive statement on Twitter and wants you to support her like she's your sister. This is the problem with the whole setup. Black folks have been loving people that don't love them back. And I feel like if we don't get real really quick, what's going to happen is we're going to be shut out. We had a president in office, didn't reflect anything about American DOS. And did nothing for American DOS. In fact, he did devastating things to black wealth in terms of not standing up to the banks the way he could have. Had all the power, all the cards, he could have stood up to the banks. Black people could have had much more wealth, him leaving than coming in. Nothing for student loans. SBA loans under Bush were 9%. That's a Republican president. Under Obama, they were about 1.4, 1.5% to black folks of all the SBA loans. So under Bush, 9% of small business administration loans went to black people. And when you look at the last year of Bush, and under Obama, what we saw is 1.5, 1.6% of all the SBA loans going to black people. This is called devastation like we never seen, because it sets not only a framework for how black people are going to treat other black people, but it sets a framework going forward for other presidencies. We ain't got to do nothing for black people. Look what Obama did. They don't know that he not really American DOS. They see him from the outside. He a mix of white people and Kenyan, and so like he looked just like us to them. And it's important for us to differentiate the difference so we can clearly delineate why that happened. And why you can't use that as no benchmark for us. I think I want to cut in a little section right here of a clip that me and Yvette Carnell did where we talked about Africans and all the things that surround the complex situation around Africans and how we need to challenge where did your loyalty lie. Nonetheless, Yvette, so is African a real cultural concept or just a way to say not African American? If you're half deal,
I mean, it's just another escape hatch. Like I would listen. I would never, even if like let's say one of my parents is Ghanaian, one of my parents African American, we moved to Ghana. I just don't see myself running around Ghana talking about African Americanness all the time. This is where the place that I am. That's what I'm anchored in, right? It's just like you don't even hear like people who have Irish heritage or Irish talk about it or fixate on it. The way you see you Africans like fixate on that half African. They don't walk around talking about, my daddy's Irish and I just, and wearing little Irish stuff all the time. And you hear about it St. Patty's Day, and if you talk to them and your friends, they'll tell you their history or whatever. But for us, it's like an escape hatch. Like I don't want to be African American. I don't want to be identified with people who I see as African American. So I'm going to create this other space for me to be somewhere else that doesn't allow me to have that chattel slavery history rub off on me, even though that got you everything you got. Who were chattel got you everything.
Somebody just pointed out in the YouTube that the person that started World Star was a Haitian, and so this is about really. I think people are really
Let me just say one thing, Antonio. When you think about the fact that the person who started World Star was a Haitian, I want you to think about how detrimental. Part of the thing that we've always wondered, people have wondered about World Star, how could an African American, when you didn't know who started it, share all these awful videos of people, African Americans beating each other up and stuff like that? Well, it's easy to do if you don't necessarily identify as being one of us. If you see yourself as outside of us, that's easy to do because you don't see this as like your people. You're a super capitalist, right? You're not. Everything that we've done as African Americans is based on community, and we do it together in solidarity with each other. If you don't see yourself as part of that tribe, it becomes very easy to do stuff that's detrimental to the community as a whole.
Yvette, we got another caller, and I'm gonna bring them in and ask them a question. Caller, what is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, hi. My name is Kimberly, and I'm calling from Chicago.
All right, Kimberly, I'm gonna pose this question to you, and then I'm gonna let you give your opinion or whatever voice you want to say. But I'm gonna ask, okay, so you're half descendant of slavery, and then you're half Eritrean or Nigerian or Senegalese. You're in a room. Let's say Nigerian for this sake, and they have this word for us called akata. Now, what's funny is, or what's a trip is that there's this whole idea like black people make fun of Africans too. We don't have a cultural norm. We don't, this whole idea of black booty scratcher, whatever people use, that's like playground stuff from the 80s. We don't have a cultural word to denigrate like Africans, like the word akata, which means wild animal. So essentially, you're in a room and your father or your uncle or your cousin starts to say that black people are shiftless, lazy, akata. What is your response supposed to be? Is it to go quiet, or are you supposed to shut it all down? So I'm giving that to you.
No, my response is to shut it all down. My response to say they're in this room in the United States because of me and my people, because of the parent that is African American, paved the way for them to come. And if it weren't for that, they wouldn't be in the room, and they wouldn't be able to say that.
I look back at Lovey, and Lovey did an article called, Yvette did a show, and she broke everything down. Yvette Carnell, Breaking Brown, broke everything down. Lovey comes back with this article about blackness, Africanness, and when it's enough. Now, I'm going to read a section of it that goes to the mimicking. But before I say that, understand that in context of what I just said with Adichie. Understand that in context of what I just said with Adichie. That in Nigeria, you don't experience blackness. Because the country black. See, blackness is a contrast to whiteness. So, if you come here at 9, Your family got all the privileges because you come from the elite Africans in Nigeria. You said it yourself. She said she had a car and a driver. She didn't know nothing about no slavery. This is Lovey. You come and play this game around blackness to get pity from people who actually have struggled their whole lives, and their families have struggled for multiple generations. Being locked out through Jim Crow, having problems with redlining and going through slavery, chattel slavery, where your family is sold. This is a problem. You know, I'm interviewing Richard Rothstein next week, I think it is, on The Color of Law. Great book. I'm out here doing the work. Don't talk to me about it. What are you doing and what's the solutions? I'm gonna have him explain better in a more like layman terms what redlining did in all of these communities to destroy black wealth. The kind of redlining that Lovey missed. She wasn't here for it. I'm also gonna be meeting Mersa Badarian of Color of Money in February. I'm looking forward to that as well. Great book on how they just destroyed black wealth here in this country. And this is after several hundred years of slavery. Let me pull up a chart to explain to everybody what Lovey missed. Understand, on this chart I'm showing you that if you broke America down into 4 sections, quadrants, we've been enslaved almost like 3 of them quadrants. And then the other one, we was either Jim Crow or mass incarceration. Lovey ain't even got to deal with mass incarceration. I showed it in the last show. There are more African American men incarcerated out of 20 million black males than all women globally. So you come here and you ain't even got to deal with no incarceration. This is the game. She says, this is Lovey Ajayi in this piece, college is also where I reclaimed my pride as a Nigerian. Being an immigrant in the United States as a young girl is difficult. Coming here with a strong accent, strange name, and shock of being the new girl for the first time, I was extra other. I started college by mimicking the way my classmates spoke, and I tucked away my first name to protect it. I started college by mimicking the way my classmates spoke. That's what you see in all these tweets, is a mimicking. You can't have people trying to mimic the worst parts of you and then trying to project that and sell it and package it. This ain't no game. This ain't no game right now. We are on the cusp of an economic cliff like we have not seen in our lifetime. I've shown you the Diallo chart multiple times. The last time wealth calcified this way was the Depression. Bottom 90% now only has 22% of the wealth, just like the top 0.1. Last time we seen that was the Depression. To be at the top of the bottom 90, you need $600,000, $700,000 in household worth. That's at the top of the lower group. Our families, the middle families, were $1,700 without depreciating assets. The problem is that when you look at a city like LA, we got our data for the first time from the Color of Wealth. Color of Wealth reports went around and looked at different cities. Looked at Boston, looked at LA, and what you found in LA is a perfect way to view it all. Middle black native family worth $200 liquid. Middle Nigerian family worth $100,000 hard. Now this isn't about whether they should give us money. This is about they should be competing in the general pool, not against the families that bear the brunt of the cost of coming from slavery for admissions and scholarships. So you got a Nigerian person getting a scholarship with a family that's worth $100,000 next to a black kid from Compton with a mama that got $100 in her bank account that come from slavery and Jim Crow, and y'all just got to compete open hand. You tell me how that makes sense. How that makes sense? So in the article she says, I am black, I am Nigerian, I am Yoruba, I am Chicagoan, I am Nigerian American, I am black American. I'm Yoruba. And this is the question about it all that nobody wants to bring the wood on. We know now that the big question that has not been asked of every West African particularly that has come here is, did your family sell slaves? And I'm not bringing this from no abstract place. We know that the Yorubas and the Igbos, they were major slave traders. We know that the Benin apologized for slavery. This is not, I don't think we understand the grasp of the way slavery worked. We think of it as an institution run and led and just done by white folk. It was a cooperative institution. I'm not guessing. The Yorubas were big players in the slave trade. I say this as somebody that's 5% Nigerian, but I can't say I'm Yoruba. That was stolen from me a long time ago. I'm 30% from the Congo and 20% from the Benin. Benin apologized for slavery. My people were sold by black folks. I want to share with you an article from Gates, Professor Gates out of Harvard, that he did in the Times. Reading from this article, Ending the Slavery Blame Game, how did slaves make it to these coastal ports? The historians John Thornton and Linda Haywood of Boston University estimate that 90% of those shipped to the New World were enslaved partnerships, were enslaved by Africans and then sold to European traders. The sad truth is, without complex business partnerships between African elites and European traders and commercial agents, the slave trade to the New World would have been impossible, at least on the scale it occurred. But the sad truth is that the conquest and capture of Africans and their sale to Europeans was one of the main sources of foreign exchange for several African kingdoms for a very long time. Slaves were the main export of the Kingdom of Congo. The Asante Empire in Ghana exported slaves and used them for profits to import gold. Did these Africans know how harsh slavery was in the New World? And that's a key question. You know, our whole protection for them is that, you know, they didn't know it was a different slavery, and they just enslaved other people, and it was like less than a lifetime. And it's no, actually, and this is from the New York Times, from Henry Louis Gates. Again, actually, many elite Africans visited Europe in that era, and they did so on slave ships, following the prevailing winds through the New World. Understand what he just said. You would put slaves on the ship, and then you would get on the ship with the slaves and see them getting bashed and thrown off the ship and all that. This was not what we've made in our head. This is far more nuanced. This connects to the kind of tweets that Lovey made. It's a view of African Americans, of American DOS, whatever classification you choose to use at this point, that what makes us less than. I don't think we really want to accept that reality and what we need to do with that. African monarchs also sent their children along these same slave routes to be educated in Europe. So they would put their children on a slave boat that has a bunch of people who are going to America or the Caribbean to basically either die or be worked to death or be multi-generational slaves to be educated and get all the potential in the world. This is awful. I don't think we really have accepted the whole context of what we need to be, how we need to become, what we're owed here, how we get to what we're owed here. You know, this is Antonio Moore. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please go to tonetalks.org to subscribe and donate. Share this video. And it's just time to have this discussion.
Having a conversation now about who gets to speak for American blacks. Who gets to speak for descendants of slaves? And so a lot of people are saying, well, you are questioning her blackness. This ain't about that. But we're now having these little silly arguments, and I'm very disappointed by them. But I have to give some context to this. And since we got some people in, I want to give you, I'm going to play this video. I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger for you. I'm going to play this video, and I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to break it up into snippets, but I'm going to play the whole thing first. I'm going to play this whole little screed. Now, the screed is coming from someone called Amanda Seales is her name. She's also an actress or something of that nature, and her whole thing is, who gets the question who speaks for black people? Who are you? Are you the blackness police? Do you decide who speaks? Who decides who speaks? I think anybody who has melanin and who has a good heart should speak. It's something like that, but I want to let you judge for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to play it, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to destroy it. So let me play it first, and we come right back.
What does someone who is allowed to speak about blackness and their blackness, what does that person look like? Where is that person from? Some people are like, well, Lovey can't talk because she wasn't born here, even though she grew up here since she was 9 years old. Amanda can't talk about being a black woman because she light skinned. You know, can Tiffany Haddish talk about being a black woman? She from the hood? Nope, because her father is Eritrean. What about Issa? Can Issa talk about being a black woman? Well, I don't know. Her dad is from Senegal and she did live there for a few years. So is she black enough for y'all? What about Angela Rye? Can she speak about being a black woman? Can she be a commentator for black culture? Well, you know, she light skinned and she comes from an elite background. So no, she can't either. Who the can? Who can? Tell me the formula. As far as I'm concerned, if you're a black person living a black experience and have a love for black people and black culture, then your commentary, if it's coming from an honest and informed place, should be revered and respected, not constantly attempted to be undermined and challenged without cause.
Understand what she's saying to you in that one clip. Understand what she's saying to me. Understand what she's saying to all of us. And I'm going to break it down piece by piece. But please understand what she's saying to you. I want to couch it in one thing that you can just hold on to throughout the rest of the show. She's telling you slavery don't matter. The only thing that matters is melanin. And if somebody with melanin comes along and wants to have an opinion in our country about what it means to be American DOS, about the lineage that defines us in this country, if somebody wants to talk about the justice claim that we have because the free labor that built this country, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is melanin and you black and it comes from a good place. That's what she's telling you. What you have to hear, see, what we have to start doing is hear what someone is actually saying, as opposed to what the kind of nice and words they're putting in. You have to hear exactly what they're saying. Now, this is only like a 60-second clip that was on Instagram. And it was on the Shade Room. Now, we're going to get to the Shade Room in a minute because I have a lot to say about that, too. There's a lot to be said about who gets to talk. It's a good question. And you know what? I'm really happy to answer it. Now, this is just a 7-second clip. I want you to listen to it. This is the first part of it. Listen to this. Let's just take this apart and deconstruct this and unpeel this piece by piece.
Does someone who is allowed to speak about blackness and their blackness, what does that person look like? Where is that person from? What does someone who is...
Listen. You get it all wrong. This is not about what somebody looks like. This is not about your presentation. This is about lineage. So pay attention, Amanda says. If you're watching, let's pay attention. You might learn something about the lineage that you say you're a part of, but you're anchored in something else. This is not about that. This is about not how you look. This is about your lineage. Now let me say something. Fam, you know I always ask a question because after Amanda Seales did that, one of the things that she did, and she thought she was being real slick, she started trying to give us a black history lesson. She went on Instagram and pointed out immigrants who immigrated here who had been leaders and civil rights leaders, and she circled stuff, and she really thought she was being real slick and real smart. Now, I want you to understand something that puts that in the context of what we're supposed to be doing. What do I always say, fam? When somebody says something or comes to you and starts talking, I say the first question is what? The first question that you ask, who are you? Now, she gave us all that context. She gave us all that information. What she did not give us was her own background. Well, that's very interesting, Amanda Seales. Why didn't you give us your own background? Why didn't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What was the problem with that? So I go, you know me, I go look you up. And what I see is that you are a Grenadian American. Now understand something. Understand one thing. I really want you to understand something. When people do these little Wikipedias and all this little stuff like this, what you have and what you have to understand is that they can change this. They can change what this means. Like you can go, if the Wikipedia page is your page, you can go to your Wikipedia page and make changes. You don't have to define yourself as Grenadian American. If you want to talk about being one of us, why didn't you define, since everything in your life is defined by the DOS struggle in this country, everything you eat off is the DOS plate. You don't eat off a Grenadian plate. You eat off a DOS plate. You eat off something that we paid in this country coming from all the way chattel slavery. And you can say, well, Yvette, she has one parent who is DOS. Doesn't that matter? It matters in the context of your anchoring. If you have one parent who is DOS and you are half Grenadian, why are you anchoring yourself in Grenada and not, you could have just put African American. If we all the same and we all get to talk and we all get to have the same conversation, why are you anchoring yourself in something other than African American? See, this doesn't make sense. You're trying to play the field. You're trying to have you both ways. You're trying to be Grenada and be us and be everything. She has two parents and chose Grenada. She chose Grenada over DOS. Understand that you have two parents. There are all kind of clips of you going back to Grenada, going back to Spice Island, all kind of stuff you doing. You have to understand, if there's nothing else that you understand, fam, you have to understand that there's a game being played and it's played for us to lose. And she's playing the game. So you got you see, this is all coordinated, family. Understand that this is all coordinated. This is all coordinated. You and Lovey and Issa and all y'all are either African or African, and y'all are all having these conversations and navigating, and we ain't navigating nothing as a group, but y'all all navigating. That's you probably on the phone. Navigator, I don't know what they talking about, girl, but I'm gonna go off for you. I'm gonna go for you, and then they gonna share it on the shade room because they black immigrants too, girl. I got this together. Don't you worry. I'm gonna set this up for you. This is a coordination. So let me just address one question and just talk about I just want you to see how she has anchored herself. Grenadian American. That's how you've anchored yourself. That is how you have positioned yourself. This is how you have positioned yourself. And you want to know who gets to speak. Well, I can tell you who don't get to speak. Let me tell you first who don't get to speak, and then we're going to talk about your anchoring. Let me tell you why you don't get to speak. You asked the question, who gets to speak? I'm going to answer you. This is from the interview right here that you're looking at. This is from the interview. I stumbled, and this is her. And the person asking her, the interviewer is asking her, I stumbled across an old poem you wrote called Oreo, while trying to figure out how to phrase a question about the process experience that drive a Grenadian American to study African American culture to postgraduate level. What are some of the positives you have gained from your bicultural experience? Well, there is an identity crisis amongst African Americans due to living in a country that was built on our backs. Wait a minute, but you just defined yourself as Grenadian American, but still fails to fully recognize us all as equal. It is my opinion a constant inner conflict to love our home but hate how it came to be. I feel very fortunate to have my Grenadian roots to also call home. See, what did I tell you all? Because listen to the rest of this. Because though it may have taken Grenada centuries to gain independence, I do not feel we have the same crisis of identity of descendants of slaves in America. You think you're better than us. We do not have the same crisis of identity. See, you're anchoring yourself. What do you mean we? See, at one point you want to say that you have one parent. You want to say I have a DOS parent. But then when you say we Grenadians do not have the same identity crisis as descendants of slaves. Also, it has allowed me to have a varied perspective of life in the diaspora. You have anchored yourself. I'm not the one who's telling you that you're something other than DOS. You've already told us that you've anchored yourself in this. You have washed yourself of the lostness. And that's what it means. Let me slow down, fam. Let me slow down and just say something. See, one of the things that you can do, see, most of us, I saw a great statistic that said over 80% of American black DOS, we have 4 grandparents who come from slavery, in terms of that lineage, through all the way Jim Crow, Reconstruction, that's our lineage. When you have a set of grandparents, a parent and then a set of grandparents who come from another country, what that allows you to do is to anchor yourself outside of the lostness and brokenness of being a descendant of slaves. So you get to wash that lostness off of you and anchor yourself in something else. And that's why when you see Africans, they're not usually Africans. They're usually Africans. They have anchored themselves in, or wherever, Caribbean, they have anchored themselves in something outside of our collective lostness and then want to claim it. We need to ask, what is your anchor culture? When you meet people say, well, I'm half and half, I need to know what your anchor culture is. I ran into a guy online on my Facebook yesterday who I blocked because he wanted to say, well, I'm half and half, I'm half Ghanaian, or I'm half black. But I go on your page, and it's all Ghana all day. There is no DOS kind of discussion of that lineage. You got everything from Hotep to Ghana to everything else. You have totally extricated yourself from us. But then you get mad when I say you ain't one of us. You made that choice. You cannot be a African and call yourself Nigerian, and you ain't never been to Nigeria. But if you are like this chick from Grenada and you go back all the time and that's what you anchor yourself in, then that's who you are. You can't call yourself Grenadan and then say you want to be able to speak for DOS. No, sweetheart, you've already made your choice. Now I need you to live with it. Don't come on here and be talking about, well, I don't get to speak. Why don't you go speak for Grenada? Tell me what's going on in Grenada. Tell me about how y'all won everything from the British and when you won the revolution. You can tell me all that. You can speak about that all day since that's where you anchored yourself. But no, you cannot speak for me. How dare you think you can speak for me? Your life is built on the blood. The space that you're in terms of everything that you're doing right now is built on our blood, and you have anchored yourself as a Grenadian while living in this country and eating off the plate of descendants of slaves. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself, that little weird screed you did. Your entire access to the world comes through America. You know, America, you got a passport. You can go anywhere. You can do anything. And there's no restrictions. Eat the world up if you have the wealth. We don't have the wealth. That's the problem. But you can eat the world up. So you come over here and take it, but then you culturally anchor yourself and wash yourself off from us and kind of pretend like we're not the same. That's the, and pretend that we're the same. So you can one day say, my Grenadian heritage gives me a better identity and understanding of the diaspora, and I don't have the identity crisis of African Americans, and then come back and be like, why I don't get to speak for black people in America. You damn skip, you don't. And I'm being very clear on why you don't. Not about a look. And it's not about all those wicked peas. This is about lineage. This is about chattel. This is about coming from chattel slavery. This is about the justice claim that you get from building the richest country in the world. And this is about how everybody can't have access to that justice claim. It's not about how you look, child. Don't nobody care about how you look. Certainly not me or anybody else who's watching this on Breaking Brown. Your father's lineage line. And where is your daddy? Because I don't see him anywhere. I hear a lot of references to everybody else. Grenada, what? It's kind of like Kamala Harris. These people don't mention, like, they talk about their DOS line, but then you can't find nowhere. They don't mention them, no accolades. We can talk about that too. We can talk about that all day long. See, because, and one thing I want you to do, fam, you have to understand that people reveal themselves. And I love when people reveal themselves. There's always a moment when people reveal themselves. And I say, aha, there goes the big reveal. So go to her Twitter, and I find this. If you're buying Jordans and Nike suits, but you're sleeping on an air mattress, you're losing. If you're buying Jordans and Nike suits, but you don't have a passport, you're losing. And so I see these tweets, fam. Understand. Here's another one. We're just going to go through them. We're just going to go through them. And we're going to have a conversation about them. I see this one too. If you're buying Jordans and Nike suits but don't have a credit card, you're losing. If you're buying Jordans and Nike suits but you don't know your credit score, you're losing. And then she defines what winning is. This is somebody who doesn't understand DOS and DOS life. Understand that this is from a very Caribbean point of view. And if you're working a side hustle to support your dream hustle, you're winning. If you're broadening your mind, you're winning. All this weird stuff. Let me just say this. You can't use DOS resources, call yourself Grenadian, then be asking why you can't speak for us. But you gotta go be Grenadian. But let me just put this up here. Let me show you something. You don't get to this. See, let me just say something. Before I put that up. You do not. Black people are poor. What those tweets show me is that you don't understand black poverty. The middle black family is worth less than $1,700. It used to be $1,700. It's probably slid now to about $15 or $14. If you do not, let me be clear. If you do not understand black poverty, you don't understand black people. And that's what that nonsense about buying Jordans was about. Because look at the number of black people who, when she talk about get a bank account and get a credit card, look at the number of the percentages here in terms of black people being unbanked. And we're talking 2013 and 2015. This is what black life looks like. So you have somebody who here is anchored in being Grenadian and doesn't understand our life. You don't understand who we are. You don't understand black life, and you want to ask why you can't speak for black people? You know, Antonio Moore did a study with Duke professor Sidney Darity, which undermined all of what she said about wealth and financial literacy. Everything she said, and if you want to talk about it, we can talk about the color of law. We can talk about the color of money. Listen, I had the conversation. I spoke with Rothstein. I met with Rothstein in Louisville, right? I've had that I'm having another conversation when I go back there in September. I'm working on things. Like, have you read The Color of Money? You just run around talking and then wondering why you can't speak. Why do you get to speak? Because you have melanin in your skin? You have one DOS parent, but you don't anchor yourself in that at all. You've washed yourself of that, but you want to speak, and you want to wonder why you don't get to speak? No, go fight the Brits. Like, DOS people in this country, we fight, and we have fought. Why don't you go fight the Brits? Like, we still fighting here, and you ain't fighting. You just want, why I don't get to talk? Why I don't get to speak? Who decides that? You gotta stop running. Y'all some running people, man. I'm so tired of y'all running. But this is another very quick clip. This is just a very quick clip because, like I said, it's from Instagram, and it was just a bunch of cobbled together mess. So I want you to just listen to this a few seconds long, and I'm gonna come back and we're gonna talk about it.
People are like, well, Lovey can't talk because she wasn't born here, even though she grew up here since she was 9 years. Some people are like, well, Lovey can't talk because she was
Lovey can't talk. Why can't Lovey talk? Because she was here in her formative years. Well, let me just say something. Let me just come back. Let me just contrast something for you. When I try to talk to you, when I try to bring something to the table for you, I take what I do here with these lights and this equipment and this mixer and this little audio set and this Ultra Gain Pro and all this stuff I have around me that you can't see. I take this very seriously. I take what I do here very seriously. I thank you all finance the equipment. I take the research very seriously. This is a very serious project for me. So I am very disappointed when I see somebody who just gets in front of a camera for 1 minute and just for a minute, and that's it, and you get 1 million likes because you just ranted on some nonsense that makes no sense. You gotta understand that what I do here, and I'm a humble person, but what I do here is fix a meal, give a little appetizer, give some dinner, and I try to make it presentable and the information be complete. That's the reason I read the books. That's the reason I listen to podcasts. What I'm telling you is you can't listen to nobody. When I cook a full meal, when I cook appetizer, dinner, dessert, you can't listen to somebody who just throws some grits in the hot water and the grits ain't even ready. Well, I don't know about them grits. That's what you do when you just grab your camera phone and start ranting because Lovey's your girl. Or because Issa's your girl. And because you want to get back on the show, don't you? You want to get back on the show. You trying to get hooked up. Why you didn't tell us that you was on the show? Ain't that you right there? Why you didn't tell us you was on the show? All this stuff should have been out front. When you made the comment, you trying to make sure Issa Rae pick you back up. How come you ain't say so? That's Insecure. That's the Insecure show. So she's on Insecure talking about, of course Issa Rae gets to talk about this. Well, of course you want a job. And you're a little long in the tooth, sweetheart. So of course you want a job. Of course you want to stand for Issa Rae. You want to stand for Lovey. Of course you do. But why you ain't tell people that? Why you didn't tell people that, like, I work with these people? Don't nobody just know who you are. You ain't famous. So don't nobody just know when they see you who you are and just, boom, okay, I know who they are. You, child, honey, hush. So let me just say, we have to, even with Issa Rae, like, we have to talk about, you know, what y'all want to do. You say, why don't I get to speak for you? No, why don't you talk about, since you want to anchor yourself in that, you talk about Grenada. Issa Rae, you want to talk about American DOS blackness and all this stuff. Now, why don't you tell me about your Senegalese daddy? Why are they never in the show? None of y'all want to talk about y'all stuff. Nobody don't want to talk about Nigeria. Everybody just want to talk about us and judge us and kind of culture vulture us. That's a problem. Y'all really think that the only people who can do that are like people with no melanin? That like other people ain't doing that too? We never hear about like you know, with Issa Rae, we never hear about your you know, like your mama's from Louisiana. Like, I don't ever hear any Louisiana stories. Is it because maybe you're anchored in being Senegalese and not? I mean, your daddy said some real nasty stuff about why'd you might as well majored in flowers. Something nasty he said about you majoring in African American history. And if your daddy said that, I know he said some other stuff too. And so when she talks about Lovey, and well, can Lovey talk? Listen, from 2010. Lovey already, she said I don't use the word. In a later blog post, she said, I don't use the word Akata. You did though. You already know you can't talk for me. You already have a tribe. Now, if I try to go, like I said, if I try to say I'm Yoruba, everybody will be like, no, you're not. You a black American. You got to get somewhere and sit down. And rightfully so. I'm not. But you need to get somewhere and sit down too. Of course you don't get to speak for me. How I got a mama who's a sharecropper and a daddy born out of poverty and you get to spend black American poverty, you get to speak for me? Of course you don't. How do you, I don't understand how this works. How do you get to have a car and a driver and a maid and come here to people who are broken, a group of broken people, because we come from chattel slavery, and say, why don't I get to speak for you? Are you slow? What are you talking about? Why don't you get to speak for me? Of course you don't get to speak for me. You are the elite of your country. I'm fighting the elite of my country. We are not on the same team. You're not ideologically on the same page as me. You're not morally on the same page as me. You don't even understand blackness in that context. So what are you talking about? And then you got a scholarship. And then for the scholarship you wrote something about how you didn't agree with reparations. But you shouldn't have got a scholarship. You stole it. All this stuff, all the stuff that was given us black people, all the stuff that was that our people fought for and bled for was given us because white people said, you know what, we have to empathize. We have to have some empathy for these people because we did this to them. The empathy was for us. It wasn't for you. It was never for you. But you don't care. You don't care that it was never designed for you. You're going to take it anyway. And then you want to come, not only do you come and take it, you don't just take it and tiptoe like the tiptoe burglar and just take it like Pink Panther. You want to take it and then be like, why didn't I get to speak for you? Are you serious? You already steal, and then you want to be like, why you can't speak for me? Are you serious right now? None of this makes any sense. Looks like the middle native black family, when I look at the chart, is probably worth about 200 liquid. The middle Nigerian family is worth 100K. And so you're worth more. You got more money. You over here. And then you want to say, why don't I get to speak for you? She know why she don't get to speak for me. And then I got a question. I got questions. You trying to speak for me, but I got questions. You talk about, in this thing, you talk about right here, that not a kata or hold me, blah, blah, blah. You Yoruba. Well, here's a question. Did your people sell slaves? I need to know. It's a question that I need answered. It's a question that we should all need answered. The article I put up a few weeks ago about Henry Louis Gates said 90% of the Africans who were sold into like for slavery, were sold by other Africans. So I'm not saying that you did. I'm just saying that I need to know if your people, them Yoruba people you bragging about, I need to know if they sold my people. 90% of the Africans who were sold into slavery, were sold by other Africans. So I'm not saying that you did. I'm just saying that I need to know if your people, them Yoruba people you bragging about, I need to know if they sold my people. 90% of the Africans who were sold into slavery, were sold by other Africans. So I'm not saying that you did. I'm just saying that I need to know if your people, them Yoruba people you bragging about, I need to know if they sold my people. I need to know. Because what you ain't going to do, what you not going to do, what's not going to happen is that you're not going to come here into my country, and it's not a transient country. You're not going to come into my country, right, and eat off my plate. You're not going to sell me over here, then eat off the plate that was built off of us being disadvantaged. So you get to eat the disadvantage when you send us over here? I need to know. Now, if you got some other money, your parents had an oil revenue or whatever, that's fine. But you need to let me know. We should be asking everybody that comes over here. If you're elite, if you had a most are in terms of like what they had, like Lovey Reveal, I need to know. You got some questions you got to answer. Come on. And if you don't answer the questions, I just assume it's the truth. And what we can't assume, black people, and this is something that we like to make a lot of assumptions. That was in Los Angeles, the quote I just gave you about the middle black family. I think it was an inequality, but you can check that out about Nigerian versus black wealth. And it was a study that honed in on Los Angeles. In Boston, the number is $8 for descendants of slaves. So, and we need more studies that kind of deal with that. What I see, because what the New Yorker article pointed out, remember the New Yorker article we dealt with, my great grandfather, the Nigerian slave trader. Y'all remember that? What that shows us is that they're not like us in the sense that there's no mass incarceration epidemic, right? They didn't have Reconstruction the same way that they didn't have chattel slavery. They didn't have all these breaking up of families. So they know exactly where their family's money comes from. So it's not like asking me or somebody else, where's your granddaddy? Well, you might not know because we're broken in terms of what happened. But they know. So we have to start not being afraid to ask the question, where did they come from? How they make their money? Were your people in the flesh trade? Because there's no way that white people could have been in the flesh trade without Africans. The white people had whole ports set up, and they came into these countries as minorities. Y'all was catching people. So that driver that you had, the maid and all that, was that residual, a hierarchy built off? Just answer the question. I'm not saying how you got to answer, but you got to answer the question. You're going to have to answer me, and you're going to have to answer us. Why would you watch a show if somebody sold you into slavery? We don't even know what's going on, or whether Issa Rae. Why would you watch a show? You wouldn't watch a show of a white supremacist. If a white supremacist told you that they daddy and great grandpappy or great grandpappy in this country owned slaves, you turn that off. So why would you do the same thing here? It don't make no sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see how it should make any sense to you. You have to tell me. And honestly, given what we know about the slave trade now, you shouldn't even be able to say Yoruba around me. It's almost like you should be in a beauty salon, and if you say, yeah, girl, I'm Yoruba, everybody should just turn to you and be like, you need to leave. No. You need to learn, that's nothing you say around us. As DOS, as American black descendants of slaves, we don't have no standards for how we need to be treated by people. Or how you build a country with free labor and all these other transients come in from everywhere, and you don't have any standards in terms of ideology, in terms of respect, in terms of you got to get in line, in terms of listen, we built the path for you, we decide how this thing goes. You don't get to speak for us, you get to hush and get in line. We don't do that. Why? Why don't we take advantage of what it means to be American? I would never try to go to any other country, African or Caribbean or otherwise, and I don't care if I got there at 9, 8, 7, 6. My people's bones ain't buried here. I'm not going to try to tell you I should speak for you. So I get to Nigeria at the age of 9, or I get to Eritrea, whatever, the age of 9, and why I can't speak for you? What you talking about? And we all wrong. Come on, man. You have to look. If you haven't read, if you're going to disagree with me this evening, and don't do it if you have not read My Great Grandfather, the Nigerian Slave Trader. Just don't do it, because they passed down the chains. They didn't just sell your people because maybe they needed a way. They passed down the chains from their family. And the woman says she asked her father, are you ashamed of our great-grandfather. And he said, no, it took a lot of courage to be a slave trader. They are proud of what they did to our people. It's not a case of anybody making them do it. You have to understand what that means. And you have to understand that our enemies come in a lot of different shades. It's not just this case, this binary, where the only people who can be enemies to us are white people. This is in the New Yorker. This is not in the Daily Caller or some right-wing magazine. This is the New Yorker, people. Understand what this says. You have to understand what this says and what this means. And you also have to understand this has nothing at all to do with blackness. Nobody said you ain't black. Everybody said you're not a member of my tribe. Just like in Nigeria, you got a bunch of different tribes, right? Y'all all black, but y'all got a bunch of different tribes. We got tribes here too. One of them is the DOS tribe, and you ain't in it. It's not about being black. See, with Lovey, I can't tell whether she's stupid or she think I'm stupid. But either way, it's a problem. You're a problem. It is what it is. You can feel how you feel. I don't really care how you feel, but the truth is the truth. And I think the problem is, the reason that y'all are getting so upset is because those masks are finally falling off. You thought this was going to keep going and keep going and keep going. Nobody would catch on to this scam, but it's coming. And you know, the funniest thing that I kind of keep thinking about is like how Lovey has this whole thing about judging you. I'm judging you. And the only thing I can really kind of say is that DOS don't really understand that what Lovey is judging. She's judging our confusion and our failure and the consequences of like how coming from slavery have like what coming from chattel slavery has caused. I don't think anybody understands. You don't get a right to judge me. You have no right to stand in judgment of me. And why are you standing in judgment of me anyway? Why don't you go judge Nigeria, highest income inequality anywhere in the world? I think y'all have bypassed India now in terms of, why don't you go judge the corruption there? Why everybody over here judging us and trying to make money off DOS and DOS culture, and you go to school and you memorize it and you look at Twitter and you figure it out, and go judge your own thing. You said I'm not a Kata. You said I'm Yoruba all the way, whatever you said, child, I don't care. Go do that then. Go do your own thing. Don't judge me. Don't judge my people. You don't get to judge us. You ain't got no bones buried here. Your people ain't buried. You don't get to judge us. And everything that you have here is because of us. And you really don't get to judge me if we find out we sold you here. Then we got to ask, if we find out that you sold us here, like if we do the research and we find out that you sold us here, then I got to ask what you doing here. Then we got to have that conversation. It's an uncomfortable conversation, but if you sold us here, you got to go. You just like white people. You can't come here and mark African American. Why don't you mark other on your applications? You know that this LBJ designed affirmative action for us. It wasn't designed for you. It wasn't designed, but you still mark it. But when it suits you, you're Nigerian. Oh no, I'm not them. But when it's time to fill out the application, all of a sudden you us. This is scavengerism. Scavengerism is not allyship. Scavengerism is stealing. It's not allyship, and that's what that is. So by what right do you get to speak for DOS? We speak for ourselves. You have no right to speak for us. You have no right to judge us. We speak for ourselves and we judge ourselves. The only thing you can do is help. The only thing you can do is get in line. You either help or hush or leave. You don't get to speak for us to answer your question. You don't get to do anything for us. We speak for ourselves. We define ourselves. You don't get to do any of that. And it's not about being black. You black as everybody else. You black as anybody. It's a lot of black people in the world. We're not saying you're not black, even though we've talked before about race being a creation. But we said you black, but that's not the same thing as being a part of our tribe. You're just not a part of our tribe. You don't get to lead. We have a claim. I don't think we understand. We have a claim against the wealthiest country in the world. You don't get to keep coming over here trying to give yourselves that claim. Every time you take affirmative action, you're trying to give yourselves that claim. Mark other on your application. Mark white. Mark Asian. I don't care, but don't mark us. Because you're not us. Can't come over here from a perfectly intact family and all of that and then mark our stuff and where we come from. You don't get to do that. I don't know why we never before saw that as scavengerism. But we do now. And the real upset that we're seeing is that I see you. And I see you very clearly. I went to Howard University. I see you very clearly. Now let's go to clip 3 really, really quick. This is a very, 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 very quick clip that we'll be able to go through real quick. The child just still ranting and crazy. So we're just going to go through that. It's like a few seconds.
Well, Lovey can't talk because she wasn't born here, even though she grew up here since she was 9 years old. Amanda can't talk about being a black woman. She from the hood. Nope, because her father is Eritrean. What about Issa? Can Issa talk about being a black woman? Well, I don't know. Her dad is from Senegal, and she did live there for a few years, so is she black enough for y'all? What about Angela Rye? Can she speak about being a black woman? Can she be a commentator for black culture? Well, you know, she light-skinned, and she comes from an elite background, so no, she can't either. Tiffany Haddish talk about being a black woman?
I think she half crazy. Listen, understand something. First of all, I'm light skinned, so I ain't never heard nobody say that you, as a light skinned person, we come from slaves and slave masters. That's clear. And we had a whole bunch of other stuff with immigrants, where there were communities where before the Irish became white. We have a whole cobbled together history that you obviously don't understand, and that's fine. You confused and silly and distraught and making a mess of our history. I get it. But see, what you won't do is lie. And what you have to understand is that the person who got in trouble for talking about light-skinned people a while back was Lovey. That wasn't me. And you have to understand the whole thing with Angela Rye. What I said about Angela Rye, I didn't say anything about her being light-skinned or rich. I said that Angela Rye was wrong in terms of Trump. Angela Rye said we're not all poor. The data says we're all working class poor. I said her data was wrong. And Angela Rye said me and my friends doing good. And I said you can't understand a wealth position based on you and your friends. You, Amanda Seals, are a very confused person. I don't understand how you get through college like that with that kind of comprehension problem. Nobody ever said that Angela Rye isn't black or she's light-skinned. I said that the way she was understanding Trump when Trump said, well, black people are poor, what do you have to lose? I said that we should have said, you're right, we are poor, and what are you going to do about it? And then Angela Rye says, we're not poor, I got friends, I got friends. And I'm saying, I got friends isn't the way that we understand data. How did you miss that? Are you intentionally misconstruing what was said, or are you just like too daft to like, not obtuse to like really understand it? You should address that in your next little Instagram post. If you're feeling bad, if you're feeling funky, you could address that. And regarding Tiffany Haddish, I never said that Tiffany Haddish wasn't black. I said I wished her well. I said she came from the ghetto and she came from a hard life of foster homes. What I said was, again, you have a comprehension problem that is not my problem. But what I said was, I said Tiffany Haddish should thank, instead of thanking her deadbeat Eritrean father who was never there for her and let her go in foster homes, I said she should thank DOS Female Comics who paved the way for her to be there. I said any kind of recognition should have been to the DOS people instead of the father. It's not like you had an Eritrean father who was there all the way and taking you to audition and doing stuff for you. Then by all means, honor him. But why would you honor a deadbeat? If a black woman honored her deadbeat father, y'all would be all over her. See, you just don't understand stuff. You out here trying to cape so hard for Lovey and get another part on Insecure and all that kind of stuff because you heading towards 40. You got a problem. But your problem ain't my problem. And your problem speaks to why you don't get to speak for us. If you don't understand that, then it's just kind of too bad. That's not my issue. You know, you have to... You have to understand what's going on here. You know, this little silly thing, this little silly thing that we're dealing with, that we really shouldn't have to deal with, is all because, like, I don't even know. It's the wildest thing. It is the wildest thing I have ever seen. The amount of scavengerism that I'm seeing and the amount of dilution. This is the dilution of our claim. And I'm gonna just finish up this last little bit before I go on to the other parts. Before I go on, let me just let you just rant on with this weirdness where you just shake the camera and that's deep. Let me just put that up.
Can? Who can? Tell me the formula. As far as I'm concerned, if you're a black person living a black experience and have a love for black people and black culture, then your commentary, if it's coming from an honest and informed place, should be revered and respected, not constant.
Yeah, that's because you slow though. Like that's because I did a whole experiment here one day, and I said, look, I got markers here. I'll do it again for the slow people, for the people in the back. Listen, I got markers. I got all kind of markers. These are all different color markers. There is no kind of solidarity just based on the fact that these markers are not this white crayon, right? So you got all of this. There's no solidarity here. There's nothing that it means. You don't get to talk or be DOS just because you're not the white crayon. How hard is that? How hard is that for you? Read Color of Law. Read The Color of Money. Do some work. Put in some work and stop doing garbage Instagram photos. And listen, Issa Rae, stop doing garbage TV. I'm sick of all of this. This stuff is, you're not even in like the top 25 in terms of like what's on HBO on that day. Give me a break, man. This is a soap operas thing. You know, we don't expect soap operas to be great because they're soap operas. It's little old women and teenagers watching them. Yeah, but that's what this stuff is. You don't even break into it. It's just understand, black women. We're building these people. We need to own who we're building and why we're building them. Why aren't we building other DOS women? Why not? So everybody who gets a perch is somebody from somewhere else who is anchored in somewhere else. What are we doing? We're responsible for this. And we need to own this. And you got to stop straddling the fence. I'm sick of that. I had somebody on my Instagram page talking about, Willie Vet, you know, I watch both of y'all. I watch you and I watch her. And I want to see what you have to say. Screw you. I done said enough for you not to watch Amanda Seals and be following her on Instagram. This isn't something where you just keep getting to watch a fight. You got to pick sides. Everybody going to lose. We're going to lose everything if we don't start picking a side, and our side is the DOS side. If we don't start picking a side and say, we are these people, this is who we are, and this is where we come from, this is what we built, this is who we stand for. If we don't start doing that, we are screwed. There is no way you compete with this group of people. They come from, majority of the Nigerians who come here are college educated. We are less than 20% college educated. They know that. Stop playing this game, and we're going to get to that in just a second. You got to understand that. We can't, everybody had a problem. Oh, Monique said something about Roseanne. This is way before that. We can't build Monique. I had Monique on my show. But you can't build her up because y'all are obsessed with some other stuff. I don't know why. Obsessed with weirdness. Issa Rae? Really? There ain't no good script. Does anybody know about script reading? This is just some good cinematography. These are not good scripts. What are we doing? I don't think we understand, sometimes I don't think we understand, even as us, what we built, as DOS, what we built, and why we're not the same. I know you all remember the case for reparations from Ta-Nehisi Coates. But there was a very, very good line in there, which really went to like our claim. And I want to just read that. It says the wealth accorded America by slavery was not just in what the slaves pulled from the land, but in the slaves themselves. In 1860, slaves as an asset were worth more than all of America's manufacturing, all of the railroads, all of the productive capacity of the United States put together, the Yale historian David Blight noted. Slaves were the single largest by far financial asset or property in the entire American economy. So no, If you don't come from that, you don't get to come here. If your ancestors did not build with their blood, sweat, and labor, not only the richest country in the world, but when you look at it, we helped build the global economy as well. If you didn't do that, if your people didn't do that, then you don't get to claim it. And no, you don't get to jump back over this side. You done told us you Grenadian, so go do your Grenada thing. You don't get to claim it. Am I clear? I don't know how much clearer I can be. There is no sameness. And understand that this sameness is an attack on the reparations argument. If we say that all brown people are the same, whether they're Caribbean, Grenadian, or Mexican, or Ghanaian, or South African, that is an attack on any claim we have for reparations. And understand that if we don't get reparations, if we don't get some kind of carve out, we're cooked. And the highest income inequality, when everything was built on our backs to give us nothing and then cordon us off, read the color of law and cordon us off in ghetto and put all the failure in our neighborhood. If we don't get some kind of redress for that, we're finished. This is life and death. This is not something you should play with. This is not something you can say, well, that I watch you and I watch her. No. And I don't want nobody coming to me. If we do it and we mess it up and we don't get it right and we don't decide that we're a tribe, don't come to me and say, Yvette, you're right. I ain't speaking to you. I'm going to tell you to kick all the rocks. There's nothing to talk about after that. You're going to be going and having interviews with people who aren't even from here. And they're going to tell you, and then when they discriminate against you as a deal, they're going to say, well, you got fired by an Ethiopian. So I'm sure, like, you know, it's no discrimination. Y'all are both people of color. Good luck. Good luck. And let me just say this. You know, let me just say something. You know, I just want to put this out here. I said a minute ago about all of her wikis, about all of the leaders and the leaders who were actually immigrants and all of that in America. And I know she thought she was doing something, bless her heart. But you have to understand something, that these people joined our politics. They came here and joined our politics and our ideology. You have to understand the reason Pan-Africanism was strong then, because you were having a lot of African nations that were being freed from colonialism, and black people who like Malcolm X, who were doing things here. There was a moment, that's timing. I know you don't understand timing, Amanda Seals, but I'm here to teach you. That was a timing thing, right? So what happened was not only that the time changed, one of the things that happened is that we lost, as DOS, we lost control of the narrative. Why? Look at this number. Look at the explosion of black immigrants. Over time, look at that 1980, and watch it shoot up to 2016. Rose to 4.2 million in 2000, and it's more than that now. See, the thing is, we're being flooded. We're at the bottom. We're in the bottom 90 of this country, and we're being flooded with a bunch of other groups. And so we're losing control of the narrative because of the numbers. See, before when there were only a few immigrants who were streaming in, we controlled the direction of the conversation. There was also a moment, countries in Africa getting their own sovereignty, but we were in control. Now what you have is this huge number of people who are coming in and they're winning and we're losing. I'm just trying to tell you like it is. You're not joining our politics and our struggle. And you want me to compete? It's different. Let me bring it up big for you. Hold on 1 second. Because you got to see this. Ooh. Okay, see, this is overall 28% of black immigrants have college degree, but this varies widely through origin. So let's bring down the origin population, shall we? So you want me, about 20% in that range of DOS have degrees. You want me to compete against Nigerians who have 59% of them have degrees, Kenyans 47, Ghana 37. You want me to compete? See, let me tell you something, black people. Everybody except us knows if we try to compete, we lose. Everybody's here because they know the game is set against us, and nobody wants us to fight for us because they know if we start fighting for us, it's going to be a problem for them. So they all stream in. What's wrong with you? You know, you're being divisive. No, you're being divisive by coming over here claiming something other than other on all your applications. And you should fight over there. All these people suffering in your country, going through things in your country. Why you ain't fighting where you from? You know I lose under this framework. You know this is a losing game. That's why you keep playing for keeps. This is an awful piece of data in terms of what we're demanding that we compete against. And then you have our own idiots saying, well, if you just got to be more like Nigerians. We don't have the history of them. We don't have the history of any of these groups. We don't live in a we have been suffocated into a sort of oppression that you don't even know. I don't care if you were colonized. It was still a mostly black, nearly all black country. We have been subjugated and zoned into the ghettos. Read a book. But you're going to ask why you don't get to speak for me? Why don't you get to speak for DOS? Because you mean well? Because you got melanin? What? And let me just say something else. When you talk about Malcolm X, she tried to bring, well, Malcolm X and all these other people who were born and from parents who had an immigrant parent or whatever. Malcolm X wasn't trying to get on no sitcom. So let me tell you something about yourself. You don't get to claim Malcolm X if you ain't Malcolm X. At this point, Malcolm X belongs to us. He don't even belong to nobody else no more. He belongs to us. But you don't get to claim him and be like, well, he was an immigrant like me. Child, you're trying to get Issa Rae to put you back on for next season. Hush. You don't get to claim him. You got to be him to claim him. Now, if you out here in the street, I will hear, we got immigrant allies. We have black immigrant allies who call in all the time. And you know the ones who tell me about you the most are the black immigrant allies who call in. They're very honest about, listen, I talk to these people all the time and they ain't nothing. They ain't right and they don't align and I be trying to help. They know the inside game. When I talk about Nigeria, I said, I only want your low class. I only want the people who get mistreated by y'all. You know who I want? I don't want Lovey. I want Lovey's maid. I want Lovey's driver. If you want somebody to immigrate here, I want her driver. Because she knows, or he knows what it's like to be treated like garbage. And I have an in terms of the politics I can do with him. I can't do no politics from you. You just like the white people. That's why we don't mesh. You understand? Have I made it clear? See, you have to, you have to understand that a lot of these people are what's left over. Well, what do you mean, Yvette, what's left over? The people who were siding with us in terms of DOS, a lot of those people in Africa and elsewhere were slaughtered. We're not dealing with them. A lot of the people that we are dealing with, not all of them, like I said, we got black allies that call in here all the time and spill all the beans, and they good people. I get emails from them. But a lot of the people, and they will agree, a lot of people that we're dealing with are the people who got left over and decided, I'm not going to go the route of the true revolutionaries because the true revolutionaries got killed. Lumumba and all of them, between 1961 and 1973, 6 African independent leaders were assassinated by their colonial rulers, including Patrice Lumumba of Congo, who was killed 50 years ago. Listen, a lot of these people have decided, I'm not going to be Patrice Lumumba. I'm not going to fight for no rights. I'm going to go along to get along. I'm going to be the best little super capitalist I can be. You are not my ally, though. You understand that makes you the opposite. That kind of makes you an enemy. We don't have an ideology, and skin color ain't going to do it. That makes you an enemy. I'm sorry. It is what it is. And so, all of what I have done today, what I've tried to do is try to, Lovey said, Amanda Seals brought the receipts. No, Lovey, this is what receipts look like. Like, if you want to know what receipts look like, my dear, this is what receipts look like. Your girl did a 1-minute blurb and it was just garbage, but this is what receipts actually look like. And I'm happy to show you because I understand you need some help. I understand that you really do. You really, really do. There's I'm reading from something. Trinidad and Tobago announces free university education for all, but at what cost to the private and foreign providers? The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Patrick Manning, recently announced in his 2005 national budget that as 1 January 2006, access to public tertiary institution will be free of charge. See, these people never tell you about the free stuff they get and like the affirmative action they get. And you can't go there and get their affirmative action. You can't go there and get their free stuff. But they get to come here and get ours. By what right, black people? By my DOS family, by what right? They make school free, and then you get to come here and be a doctor? So wait, they make school free for you, and you get to come here and be a doctor and compete against DOS doctors who have 6 figures worth of debt? By what right? No. This is a problem. This is a problem. No, I'm not with it. It's not okay. And let me just, I'm getting ahead of time. I'm getting low on time, but it's time to choose. And one of the things that I will, as I end, I want, if you all have not, there was an article by Antonio Moore, in YourWeb, but let me just read this. Because it kind of brings home where we are, and it also kind of brings home what needs to happen. And just Google Antonio Moore YourWeb. It says, yet despite all of this, recent immigrants from the continent of Africa are striving to create what amounts to a solidarity of sameness with American DOS, one built largely around the narrative which encourages all blacks to view the continent of Africa as sort of a unified country, and the United States of America as merely a transient one. They envision a broad solidarity built on an identitarian oneness that, by its very nature, undermines the unique claim of reparations being owed to American DOS as a result of particular injustice they have borne since arriving in the country. Furthermore, this imagined coalition complicates the issue of who should even have a right to speak as a representative of American DOS on repairing what was wrought upon the black American families. Essentially, the solidarity is the painting of a fantastical unified Africa that fought to get American DOS back since the day the first among them were stolen in 1619. It is truly a version of history in which Wakanda and Zamunda might well exist. In effect, this solidarity through African Americanness has become a one-way door that admits everyone with melanin and African origin and allows them the ability to integrate, at least superficially, into the culturally embedded position that American DOS have traditionally exclusively occupied in the United States, while giving no specialized access to African country for American DOS. This is what it is. This is what it is. I'm sorry if people are haunted by it or made upset by it. But the truth is the truth. The truth just is the truth. And that's all I can say about it. And what I want to end on, listen, what we don't understand is that there is a whole infrastructure being created to box us out. Well, what are you saying, Yvette? Well, what I'm saying is that when you look at somebody says, this was on the Shade Room, this stupid little rant was on the Shade Room, right? And so somebody said, well, Yvette, why, you do numbers. Why haven't you been on the Shade Room? Well, I think it's clear. I think it's very clear why I haven't been on the Shade Room. And it's clear. Like, the Shade Room is ran by a Nigerian immigrant. And I mean, her parents were immigrants. And she ended up in foster care because I think her daddy murdered her mama. But she still identified, even after basically being thrown away because her father destroyed the family, she still identified as Nigerian. And one of the things that's so amazing about the whole story, it says that the other part, and this is from the article I just put up, is because she's Nigerian. Nigerians are some of the most successful immigrants in America, she said. And so when I would go to class, people would say, oh, you're Nigerian, so they would expect me to be smart. Somebody expected something of me. Like she got the benefit of a positive stereotype. And we don't. We get the benefit of, you're lazy and all that stuff. And it's funny that even given the tragedy of her family, she never came out of that and just said I'm American. She still identified as Nigerian. Like, these people are still anchored in something that washes them free of being us. And then you have to understand, and then they want to be us. Look at this. This is a quote also from the article. She says, a few times during our conversation, and she's talking about, this is the author talking about, the head of the Shade Room. No wonder alluded to her Nigerian heritage as an excuse for the Shade Room's occasional missteps. We said mammy in one post, she said. Readers killed us for that. They were like, did you know that mammy was what they called the slaves? And we were like, oh my God. So that is everybody around you Nigerian? Are all the people you hired Nigerian and nobody knew that? Okay. Okay. I'm definitely getting an education because I'm Nigerian and I'm still learning what's acceptable and not acceptable. I have to be educated on those types of things. We posted something on Beyonce and she had a cartoon character on her shirt that represented an old restaurant called Coons that got shut down because it was so racist. And I was like, how was I supposed to know that this character was from that? I had no clue because people were like, why would you do this and support that? So I definitely have to educate myself, and I'm happy because I need to be educated. I want y'all to let that sink in real quick. Understand that one of the most popular outlets online for DOS people is being led by somebody who is having to learn what it means to be a DOS person on the fly. See, times are too serious right now in terms of what we have to do, understand, navigate in this terrain for you to be trying to learn on the fly. You don't even understand who we are in our culture. Why are you leading our culture? And see, that boxes me out. I already talked about, I graduated from Howard University. Well, Howard University now in the top tier is led by a group of black immigrants. I probably couldn't even go and speak at Howard University right now because of the black immigrants at the top tier. I can't go to the Shade Room and have my voice heard because they're black immigrants. This is a boxing out of DOS, and we don't even see it coming. Let me tell you, y'all can play that game all day. You can play that Pan-Africanism game all day. But let me tell you what's going to happen. We need a group. We need a tribe. If we can't do that, we are finished. We can play that, but you will die playing this Pan-Africanism, we all brown, black game. You will die doing it. It'll just be finished. We'll just be over. Just understand that. Oh, you're smart. When somebody says, oh, you're smart to a Nigerian, they're saying, understand the juxtaposition is that you're smart. You're not like these DOS people. You're smart. You're different. And understand how they advantage that and how they navigate the American white supremacist system with that in mind. We're the pawns. There's a whole chess game being played. And on both sides, we're the pawn. So the sooner you understand that, the better off you'll be. And the better off you'll be in understanding that people don't consider us smart. But you're Nigerian. You're smart. These other little native black, these other little DOS American, but you're smart. Understand what that means for us. You have to understand this, and you have to play the game. People love to talk about power and all this kind of stuff. But you don't know how to wield it. You don't know how to do it. You don't know how to manage it. That's obvious. So, the pawn's gonna get it. We have a chance right now. We have a very small moment, fam. We have a moment. We have a moment to take this back. This is it. After this, it's over. You're going to have Indians at the head of Google. You're going to have everybody. It's going to be everybody else running stuff and everybody. What are y'all people of color? And we're going to be nowhere. Even on the bottom, the Mexicans are doing that stuff, so we're going to be nowhere. This is it. Either you do it now and you claim your legacy and your lineage in this country, or it is over. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm not trying to exaggerate anything. I look at the data all the time, and there is no way out other than us claiming what is legitimately ours. We can't survive like this. I don't think people understand that. Housing concerns at Clark Atlanta University. People ain't got the money for Clark. That is what it is. So, fam, I'm going to take a quick break. Get the phone set up. And I will be back, and I want to hear what you got to say. I went a little bit long, but I'll be back. I want to hear your side, and we're going to have a conversation. I just checked the email, and I didn't see anything from anybody just yet. I'm just saying, because everybody want to talk. Everybody say, well, I can't ever get through. Editor at breakingbrown.com. All right? Appreciate you. About to go to the calls and see what y'all got to say about what's going on. Yeah. So, the chat is interesting. But I'm going to go to 443. 443, what is your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind? Hold on. Uh-oh. 443, you there?
Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
Yeah, what's going on?
How you doing?
Pretty good. What's going on with you?
I'm good, man. My name is Omar. Born and raised in New York City. Ended up going to law school. My parents are from Guatemala. And so I saw a lot of this stuff within my own extended family. And especially when I went to law school, a lot of this down-talking, condescending attitude towards African Americans. You see, me, I feel as though, hey, my parents migrated to this country. In terms of my pyramid, in terms of who I owe, in terms of who I should align with, it's African Americans.
Of course.
Because they migrated here. You know, if they wanted to stay in Guatemala, then my allegiance would be different. But they didn't stay there.
Yeah.
And so, that's something that a lot of black immigrants don't want to accept and don't want to understand. But at the same time, Lovey represents what I think is a triangle of what is modern black college-educated thought, which is Pan-Africanism combined with intersectionality coupled with classism. And these folks have combined all these things, and it's blatant in the in terms of the academics that they follow and prop up, in terms of the TV shows that they follow and prop up, and the black online magazines that they follow and prop up. I take into consideration, Zora Neale Hurston has been a big figure, especially among black African-American women academics for years now. But since Barry Cohn came out, I'm friends with several of my professors from my undergrad. They have not mentioned Barry Cohn. Why? Because unlike Hurston's other works, this touches on a touchy subject. It undermines Pan-Africanism because it showcases that Africans sold black folks into slavery, and it did that. Hurston does that on a blatant level, and they're uncomfortable with that. I haven't seen a single post from any of my professors on Barry Cohn. No, nothing. Then you look at when they call folks on Twitter Dusty Hoteps. That's coded language.
What is it called? What is it coded language for?
It's coded language for a poor black African American man.
Oh,
That's what it's coded language for. When they start talking about ashy Hoteps, they basically saying you can't afford lotion, you can't afford shea butter, you can't afford to be on my level. You can't afford to go to brunch. You can't afford the mimosa. You can't afford the mimosa or happy hour. Alright? And then another thing that I've had to deal with in my own family, and I had to check my cousin a couple of days ago. We had a discussion because black Guatemalans are stuck. Right now they're economically stuck. We are concentrated in the South Bronx and scattered throughout Brooklyn. And one of the things that he attempted to do was attempt to blame African American culture for black Guatemalans being stuck. Black Guatemalans have been in the United States for about 50 years. We can't even name a black Guatemalan doctor. Like, it's been a stagnant situation. And so he, like many other black immigrants, attempted to blame American culture, or African American culture, poor African American culture. They call it Americanizado. Caribbean call it acting like a Yankee, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And I told him, I have no proof that Black Guatemalan culture had strong pillars before they came into interaction with poor African American culture.
Uh-huh.
From what I know, Black Guatemalan culture was already jacked up before they even got here. But you trying to use African American culture as a cop out, and Jamaicans do the same thing. Jamaicans do the same thing in Brooklyn. West Africans, you look at all the major drug dealers from New York City in the 1980s. Vast majority of them were Caribbean. Vast majority of them were not African American. They were Caribbean. Most of the crime in Brooklyn is committed by Caribbean folks. But yet, what do their parents? One of the things their parents say is, "You're acting like the Yankees. You're acting like the Yankees. You're not being a hard-working Jamaican." But no, this person's been here several decades. They've been messed up for years. You're blaming African American culture for something that probably has roots in Jamaica, but use it as a cop out.
I appreciate you, fam. Listen. The people who always spill the beans are like allies. Allies always have all the goods and all the juice and all the stuff to tell. And I appreciate you coming in here telling all the goods, fam. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Listen, somebody pointed out to me that somebody pointed out to Amanda Seals that we was taking her to task, and here's what she said, child. Well, these people are so vacuous, honey. I can't deal with the level of vacuousness. Understand that right there, you see that little flag? That's a Grenada flag. Now, how do you have a Grenada? Ain't no American flag there. Understand on her Twitter account, there's a Grenada flag. Ain't no American flag there. First of all, understand that. Understand that you have anchored yourself in that. Then you're going to be like, how come I don't get to speak for you? Girl, go on. And then you're going to say, well, heavy is the crown. What crown, child? You just a long in the tooth woman who's trying to be an actress who it's about finished. You might want to just do something else at this point. Like, there is no crown. This is some elitist stuff. Like, you're anchored in elitism to say heavy is the crown. How many times y'all ever seen me say, well, heavy is the crown? I ain't got no crown, and I'm not looking for a crown. I operate in the realm of the people. That's what I do. Ain't no crown. Honey, stop. Just embarrassing yourself on the Twitter like that. Just embarrassing yourself on the Twitter, child. Oh, you got a Grenada flag on Twitter, and then her name, she child, you an outsider, honey. And I don't know why you don't understand that you're an outsider. You should at least switch that up when you knew I was coming for you, but you can't do that, can you? You're not swifty enough for that, are you? Child, stop. I'm going to go to 919. 919, what is your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, Yvette. This is Indiana from North Carolina.
Hey, what's going on?
Hi. So, I want to start by saying, like, over the decades of my life, interacting with other Africans and foreign blacks, I've come to understand that their attitude and relationship to us is paternalistic and condescending. Like, they're constantly asserting themselves, like their nationality and ethnicity is weapons against us. Like they talk about how their language, their music, their food, all that is culture, and get sensitive, when we say something we don't understand or ask questions. However, they call us lost, cultureless mutts who lack respect and tradition. But then when it comes to the slick stuff that Lovey said about Tevin Campbell to Aretha, is like, okay, do you not understand the disconnect that in Black American music history, Tevin and Aretha have a strong relationship. Therefore, when he's grieving in Black American culture, you show respect to a family or someone who's close to someone who's passed.
Yeah.
You don't just run your mouth, talk slick like that. That's just something you don't do in Black American culture. And it's like if
Yep.
you're identifying as Black American and you want to be anchored in an Afro-Indigenous struggle, tell me, which of your ancestors were martyrs and died for your humanity during the Civil Rights Movement, not even during slavery?
Yeah, I agree, and we have to tie in that word akata. When you talked about that, that is akata. Like that's how they think of us, right? That is.
Right, and see,
yep.
they like to brush it off as, no, akata just means foreign. No, it's a racial slur, and when we call y'all foreign, your feelings are hurt.
Yep.
You know, you can't dish something out that you can't take.
Yep.
That's not
But
something
it's
as Black Americans
it's worse than that though, fam. Like you're in my country though. Like I would never never go to somebody else's country and disrespect them. Like when I go to somebody else's country, I am so deferential because this is yours, this is your space. You want to come here, like y'all got to go back and if it's still up and revisit that Grapevine conversation where the African American, the DOS woman was talking and they were like, "This is not your country, it's a transient country." Like who you should like we should just go and like you understand how awful and disrespectful this is. Not even like a country where like okay a bunch of people moved here at the same time. We built this country and you're telling me this isn't my country? Like I couldn't have been there because we'd have been wrestling. Like I can't.
This is a transient country.
Yep.
Saying this is a transient country really and calling us lost culturalist mutts, like that's intentionally using bigoted rhetoric to undermine and dismiss us.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, what I want to say is like when we speak of, especially on Twitter, when we speak of blackness, it's kind of like this tacit understanding that it's the default is initially the focus is Black Americans, which isn't just simply being Black in America.
Mm-hmm.
If it was, then they wouldn't, puff their chests out and distinguish themselves from us.
Yeah.
But they constantly do. And I watched the Rachel Dolezal documentary a while back, and a quote that she said stuck out to me. It was very profound. She was like, "Who's the gatekeeper of blackness? Who can protect it, define it, and own it? How you feel is more powerful than how you were born." And then Amanda, during her Instagram rant, she's like, "Tell me the formula." And it's like, okay, well, I have something for the both of you. Who's the gatekeeper of blackness, and who can protect it, define it, and own it in the sense of Black Americanness? Us, Afro-Indigenous, descendants of slaves. You know what I mean? Because you define your Africanness and all your tribes and all your countries. You always, they always want to tell us who we are not. However, when we push back and say, okay, this is who I am, they want to tell us we're wrong. Like you said in the previous show, I think it was Monday, it's like our lineage isn't like a trans identity. It's not like something that, it's not an intangible, like our blackness, our lineage isn't some intangible feeling.
No.
It's a historical and cultural context that you
well
cannot take
documented.
away from us.
Well documented. And let me just add one other thing, fam. These are the people like you. What you really have here, to a large extent, you have people who sold us into slavery and what that did to us. Now calling us akata. So you sold me into something that damaged me and on a lot of levels destroyed me. And then when I show you that damage, you say, "Oh, well, you're just a wild animal." Well, you're a horrible person. Y'all were horrible. To be in the flesh trade, you were a horrible person. Because what that Henry Louis Gates article says, that white people tapped into a trade that already existed. So you were already horrible people, and that's part of why your whole. That's part of why West Africa has collapsed. Is because when slavery was over, y'all wasn't doing nothing else. Y'all were just selling people in your country. So y'all had you can't make a whole life out of palm oil, sweetheart.
No. At least not in the context of what I understand about being American in a capitalist society.
Exactly. No, exactly. Thank you, fam. I want to thank you for calling in. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. It was interesting. That's what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. And I think what we have to do. Also, hold on one second. Let me get this off before I get to the next call. I think what we have to do is kind of understand that. I think we have to understand what the caller means, wild animal. Like somebody who considers themselves your family doesn't make up a word called wild animal to talk about you. Like, you're not my family if you consider me a wild animal. That's not who you are. This is anchor culture. Like, she's anchored. Like, when I put up that image, like, of her, she's anchored in Grenada. Like, don't call, like, you see the flag. Like, don't call me. You don't even have, like, an American flag and a Grenada. You don't have two flags that represent both of your parents. Get out of here. You don't get to represent me and speak for me. So when you ask, who gets to speak for us? Not you. So I'm going to 240. 240, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
How you doing tonight, Sister Yvette?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm good. I'm a little bit fired up. This is Roz from the DMV.
Hey, Roz.
Since I called in, I'm not going to stay long.
Okay.
Because I wanted to just point out a couple of points.
Okay.
In the 2015 PBS special, you had Skip Gates on that discovered that Ben Affleck's ancestors were slave owners. And that man, Ben Affleck, even he was so embarrassed, he begged for him to not put that information out there on the show.
That's true.
Because he couldn't handle it. And you have people that are sitting here bragging and writing articles about it. That's just pure disrespect.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking of everything that you're saying, and I'm thinking, we have to immerse ourselves in broadcasts like yours, because that's where you get information. It's not in the public school system. I know, because that's where I work. It's not in the school system. You have to be able to give a counter narrative to what's being taught. And this whole thing reminds me of the night
conference, and had the discussion, about the difference between black people and Africans, and what our role really is as far as upcoming here to America. And one of the things, the common argument that people bring up all the time, and what this guy kind of presented to me was, man, black Americans, they're just lazy. They don't send their kids to college. They don't pay for the kids to go to college. They just give birth to kids and then not able to take care of them.
No money for that. No money.
I countered that. And I kind of countered that. I'm just like, okay, if that's actually how you believe, then why is it that you came to America and attended Texas A&M University, studied petroleum engineer, but you didn't study it back home in Lagos, Nigeria? And he kind of got riled up, and I kind of walked away from it, because first of all, we were in Oklahoma. I didn't know much about the history of Oklahoma and what they done to us, but when the people that are allied with black Americans, and I kind of didn't know the history behind it. But anyway, we were doing that all in the crowd of a restaurant, and it was just, I had to walk away from that
yeah, you got to be smart. You got to be smart.
Okay, yeah. And it was just like, I just stated that question right there, and it kind of riled him up. And that's the only thing that normally people just come up with. And I'm just like, you keep talking like this, I'm confused. Like, for somebody like me, I could easily talk like that, because I have family members who have streets named after them in my own country and things like that. I could easily brag about those things, but I know my history, and I also know the history of black Americans here, and I know that there's a big difference, so I don't downplay it and things like that. But anyway, I just thought I'd bring up that topic.
No, I appreciate it. And I think one of the things we have to understand, and I say I appreciate it, but I think one of the things that you're pointing to is that, listen, we cannot, as DOS people, I can't be on here fighting white people and white supremacy and fighting you and everything that you don't understand. I can only fight one thing, and that's the big thing. So if you're not the big thing, you gotta go. If you're not here to help me and I gotta fight you and fight that, then you're gonna have to stay wherever you at. Go fight corruption in Nigeria and do whatever you do, or Ghana or wherever, or Grenada or whatever. I can't fight everything. I can't do everything. We 14% of the population. I can't be fighting you on one side and I gotta fight them on the other. No, you just might have to stay home.
And then what they're going to counter you with is, well, why do you keep having babies? I mean, like,
what do you mean?
How can you
like,
say
but
something
they
like
don't.
that,
But they
you
don't
know?
have any. But they don't have any data. The birth rate among Black American women has gone down. Like, it's not that. The problem is that we have built this country with free labor, and we don't even have enough money to have children. But you don't care because you're a scavenger. Scavengers don't care, and you don't care because you don't know, because your parents have money to send for your school fees. You don't know that our parents work and still don't have the money, full-time jobs, and still don't have the money. Those who are lucky enough to get them, and there's not enough money to pay for school. You don't know enough to be here. See, that's the problem I run against too. You don't know enough to be here, and if you don't know enough to be here, you're gonna have to stay home. Because you don't know enough to be an ally.
It's crazy. And this is my last thing. I'm sorry. The other thing, the table, you know, once again, this is an organization, National Society of Black Engineers. Majority of the table, except for, I think, 2 people that were DOSs, the majority of the table was just on his side. And it was just, including the DOSs. And I was just like, wow, this is something else. But anyway, I just thought I'd leave that with you. And you have a.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate it, fam.
Wait.
Okay, what?
One more thing. I'm so sorry. That's what I forgot to bring up. I had listened to this one podcast where Charlamagne the God is, which is also a friend of what's this girl's name that we're talking about tonight?
Of course he is.
He's a friend of hers.
Mr. Black Privilege.
Where actually. Huh?
I said Mr. Black Privilege. Of course he is.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm listening to the podcast, and he has a white guy on there who's actually like a co-host on that podcast. He actually knows that there's a difference between Black Americans and then Sierra Leoneans, Nigerians, and everything. And then see the guy, every time they bring that up, he always breaks it down with, well, we're just all black people. I don't know why we have to go into all that. But it's funny that this is a white guy that is explaining this to this podcast's crowd, but Charlamagne the God kind of backs it and says, well, no, we're all black anyway, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I just thought I'd just lay that to you, and yeah, you have a good night.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate it. But see, the thing is, the most damaging thing that he said is like when you have us in a room, right? You have us in a room and we don't even defend it. And part of that has to do with, like, we got to start doing work, people. I'm sorry. Like, we got to start reading what we need to read and do what we need to do. You know, we you know, the reason we fall for stupid stuff is because we don't understand. We don't understand that, like, who we are and what we did, and we don't brag about it. Like, we should be bragging about this. Listen, we made a space for you to be here. Like, you can leave, and it'll be all right, and the world won't miss you. I won't miss you. Like, we can do that, but we won't do that. See, because we don't, if you access the color of law, when somebody says something stupid to you, you just smack them upside the head. And I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about, like, intellectually. You could just hit them, like, boom, like, you moron. You could just hit them, but since we don't know, we just sit at a table with them and be like, well, I don't know. I guess maybe, you know, they might have a point. You know, we just don't be doing enough. Shuffle, 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 shuffle. No, that's not good enough. That's not, no. Like, you don't understand our history in this country. And so you can't, when you don't understand our history in this country, you can't defend our history in this country. And that becomes a really big problem. That becomes a really big problem in terms of, you know, who we are. Lord, the child's still talking. She having some problems. She having some problems with the Breaking Brown family. I'm going to go to the next caller. I'm going to 510. 510, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Hello? 510, can you hear me? 510? All right. I don't think 510 can hear me. I'm going to 347. 347, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, it's Jenny from Brooklyn. What's going on,
What's
girl?
going on? I ain't heard from you in a minute.
Girl, I was on the country. I had to go home and take care of the business and come back.
Okay, go.
Right, get to that tonight, my girl.
So what's going on?
The people that us. Girl, let me tell you something. You see, if you all have been saying on the show about what we do here, we come to this country, our job is to make it easier for everybody else to come. As you can see, this girl here has her Canadian flag up, and she's aligning herself with other immigrants. Even though it's America, she come and get her opportunity because Dr. Green didn't have nothing to give nobody. You understand me? But she's not going to align herself with nobody else but the immigrants. And let me tell you something too. You see why immigrants have the image of Black American that they have? Is because of us. You see, when we go back home, we build a mansion in the sky because the U.S. dollar is so heavy in other countries.
U.S. dollar, you say? U.S. dollar. Ooh, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me tell you something. You see your $1 US is 134 Jamaican dollars.
What? She said $1 US, 134 Jamaican dollars. That's the value of having a homeland. Go on and tell the truth and shame the devil.
Girl, I mean, I love it because we can go and still take care of my business. Because we can take a little bit of money and build up a mansion. So when the locals are watching you come back home next time, but wait a minute. Foreign have the money because you the American, I'm here struggling and I have a little box I'm building for 10, 15 years. I just put a second level in the house. And you come back and just build 3, 4, 5 levels, 13 bedrooms, 16 bathrooms, how much acreage? How can you do that? And then you guys say, well, you know, in America, and this, but we're not telling them in America how hard we have to work.
Yeah.
We're not telling them in America it's a struggle. We're not telling them enough of us can't afford house in America. So we all bunching up, renting a room here, renting a room here, working and saving the money to build a mansion in the sky. We're not telling them that we have to build a mansion in the sky because guess what? We can't afford to retire in America. America is getting so expensive. Who's going to afford to retire here? So we're not telling the full story.
And we don't have a homeland to go to. We can't afford, DOS can't afford to retire here either. We ain't got nowhere to go.
And that's the rough part. Because I said to myself, boy, it's rough. Black American has a double edge. Because when America gets on my nerves, they can't book a plane ticket and say, hey, I'm home. What's happening? You don't have nowhere to make a move. You're just here. You don't have an outlet. You don't have nowhere to run. It's not easy. You can't run from where you come from. People always want to pick up and move and go here and go there. Okay, fine. You're always going to have those people. But what about those who can't afford to run? What about those who are forced to stay? You're coming here and you're reaping off the land. You don't feel any responsibility to help the cause?
That's what I'm saying, fam. But and listen to this too, family. Like when you go back to Jamaica, like I would be really interested to hear your opinion because America is so consumer based. Like I can't turn on my iPhone without somebody trying to convince me to buy something. Oh, you like them jeans that you bought a year ago? I got some new jeans for you and they fit better. Like everything when I turn on my computer, I don't think people understand what it means to go to a place that is less like just buy all the time. And like you can have a little piece away from that. Like people don't understand how hyper capital America is unless you go away from America.
Yeah, they don't have no clue because even back home when I'm talking to them, I'm telling them how rough it is here. They're saying to me, well, if you buy a house in America, it's your house. I said no, because guess what? If you can't pay a tax, the government take your house.
Yep.
Jamaica's not like that. If you buy a house, it's your house. If you're going to do some problems, they have a law. The bank can't just take your house like that. The house is still your house. And he said to me, are you serious? I said, I'm telling you. I said, America's as easy as you make it sound. America's a place you have to constantly consume. As you buy the phone today, it broke tomorrow.
Yep.
You have for buy back the next phone.
Yep.
You can't say you're not buying a phone because everything is on the phone. The email, this, that, even school now is online.
I can't find my way nowhere without Google Maps. I can't find my way nowhere. I'll be driving in circles without it. I can't find my way nowhere. You can't do, like you said, you can't do nothing without it.
They don't understand. I'm telling them, even when I'm back home and I'm watching the TV, America's so much influence in Jamaica now. Sometimes I feel like I don't leave Brooklyn. Every time I reach out Jamaica, I say, Jesus Christ, they're coming over there on a flatbush. It's like they're so into the foreign thing. They want the shoes, the sneakers, the gum, anything that's American they want. And they have no desire for what they have. They don't appreciate what they have. And I'm telling them, I think just to understand, your house is paid for. You have a helper that come in and cook and clean 3 times a week. You know how fortunate that is? You know how lucky you are? Yeah. You don't work 2 jobs. When you tell me you work 2 jobs, they said to you, how can you work 2 jobs? Is that possible? You say, yes, come to America anytime you're ready. I work just like you. I say you work. They don't, it's no concept because Jamaica does not run that way. It don't run that way. They're clueless, and it's our fault. When we go home, a lot of us don't talk the full story. They make it sound like everything is nice and hey, and the money and the rain, and I've been a match in the sky. But that's our retirement. That's our backup plan. Because we see it coming. We see it coming. So we got to get in, and line up our stuff. We have to line up, get what we have to get, and run and go back home. And we don't
have a, they build, into jobs and all kind. I mean, we don't have a backup plan. They build into job, you'll be able to find places and, we don't have that. Like, I don't think we understand how much we're boxed in as Americans because we don't have nowhere to go. And this is our country and we don't, like, everything is so expensive here. And the wages are at the bottom and people be like, well, why can't you afford XYZ? Because the wages are in garbage. Like, labor's getting a smaller share of so much smaller share. Income inequality means that labor is getting near to nothing right now in terms of what it used to get. So what are you talking about? Why can't you afford XYZ? That means you just don't understand America.
They don't. They have no clue. Just like how the Africans come here and they can't go to school in Nigeria and get educated. But guess what? They come here and their family will pay for them to go to school here because guess what now? When you go back to Nigeria, I'm an American-trained doctor. You have accolades. You can't get anything you want. People can respect you more, all because you're trained in America. That's all you need to know. That's why a lot of them come here and train. Even though they can go to school back there, they come here and train and go back there so they can show off for the people that go, oh, I trained in London, I trained in America, I trained here. That's all a big scam and a big con.
And build up. And if you was really about your business, thank you, fam. I appreciate you calling in. Hadn't heard from you in a while. Appreciate you. I'm gonna try to get through. I appreciate you. I'm trying to get through a couple more calls. But if you was really about your business, you would build up your stuff. I mean, how y'all talk about the Wakandanization of something, and y'all coming over here bragging about I was trained in America, I was trained in London. Build up your own institution in your own country. That's really what Wakanda is, ain't it? Like, y'all want to talk about, like, come on, stop exalting all this stuff, man. Come on. I'm gonna go to I'm going to go to 917. What is your name? Where are you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. This is Adelaide from Brooklyn.
Hey.
Thank you for taking my call.
No problem.
So I'm calling to speak on 2 things. The first of which is sort of this recipe of very deep arrogance, a jealousy of the hyper-visibility of African-American DOS culture, and this natural opportunism to come here and make a score.
Oh.
So going back to Lovey specifically, I want to point out a couple more of her tweets that show this depth of arrogance.
Okay.
And I'm not dwelling on her as a person, but this idea, this pattern that we see in terms of the attitude that some of them, because it's not all, but some of them carry over here. So these are tweets from a couple of years ago where she says, I ain't gonna lie, so speaking in African-American vernacular, I ain't gonna lie, I will not be encouraging my kids to go to an HBCU. It's the African elitist in me. Unquote. Now, to be perfectly honest, I would love for HBCUs to prioritize DOS. However, that being said, what's coming through in this tweet is that she is looking down upon our institutions because she's an African elitist. Next tweet. LMAO, laughing my ass off. My sister just asked me, did Al Sharpton invent Kwanzaa in 1984? Child, the shade she just threw. Next tweet. Why do you frown at Kwanzaa? I don't know. I guess I'm an elitist African. Next tweet. Just because you celebrate Kwanzaa don't mean we gonna claim you, especially not looking like Quinta's mama. Next tweet. I should leave Kwanzaa alone like Africans do. Oh, yes, I did say that. Oh, yes, girl. Next tweet. Kwanzaa, the Milli Vanilli of holidays. This is actually an article that she wrote for Very Smart Brothers. And then as recently as 2013, her complaining and saying black folks are so touchy about Black History Month and Kwanzaa. And this is in addition to several other tweets that she made about slave cries and just minimizing the horrors of American chattel slavery and either mocking it or turning it into something that's a joke. And so my question is, how do you have the sheer unmitigated gall to criticize us? And I know that a lot of us DOS people have varying opinions on Kwanzaa, which is fine. We're entitled to those opinions.
We're here. This is our country.
Who is not our tribe.
Yeah.
How do you, as someone who is not our tribe, come here and have the gall to criticize us for creating something to replace what was stolen from us? Like, you sold your child, basically, or your brother, and then you're mocking that child for many, many years later, not knowing the full family tree and not knowing the traditions. How do you have a hand in this disconnect and then mock us for that disconnect? That's absolutely shameful.
Yeah, it means you're a horrible person. It means you're a horrible person, and your group, like, in large, not everybody. The ones on the bottom probably wouldn't speak that way because they've experienced it. Y'all are horrible. Like, you're horrible. And they're telling me, like, Lovey's going to have a show. Why would any DOS, why would any American black DOS watch a Lovey show? Why? I don't get it.
Well, that was going to be my next point. As a next step, as far as, like, what's the action, I think that we need to sort of discuss, which you're starting that conversation, what are the terms of engagement? And I think as a next step, we need to approach Shonda, who is developing her book into a show, and show her these posts and say, you know, there is at least an apology that's deserved here. Because the response article that Lovey wrote, I think earlier today, didn't include any type of apology at all, was total gaslighting, totally sidestepped the issue, and was very much in the same vein of what Amanda was saying with sort of throwing up this universal blackness as a distraction. So I think as a next step, we need to approach Shonda, Breaking Ground family, and say, you know, listen, this person needs to be held to account.
Well, and I'm going to go further. I'm going to go further, fam. I'm not accepting no apologies because I know you're a fraud. I'm not accepting no apologies. Like, I'm just going to tell you off top. Like, this stuff you going to do is going to fail because I'm not watching it. And I'm going to encourage everybody who watches me or everybody not to watch this crap because she's a crappy person. She needs to go do her own show. And you know, when you talk about it's a Nigerian elitist in me, it's Nigeria. Well, do a Nigerian elitist show and see how that plays out. But you don't want to do that because you know we cool. That's why you came here and you extracted from the culture and you used it in school and you figured out how to do all this black stuff. That's why you did it. I just need you to know I'm not doing it. I'm not riding with it. Just like you know, we ride with this insecure stuff. See, I don't think we understand, fam. Like, this is shutting us all out. Like, there could be a little girl from Chicago, or a little girl from Jersey, Mississippi who could have a show.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second point, very quickly, is the 2020 census. So the 2010 census basically asked, very straightforward, very simple, are you black, African American, or Negro? No other option, no option to clarify at all. The 2020 census is asking if you are black or African American, and then it's asking you to write in your origins. And so I feel like, not the Breaking Brown family, but unfortunately DOS in general, we're so confused that you're going to have DOS people say, okay, well, I got my 23andMe. I'm putting down Nigeria, Benin, people putting down Africa, Egypt, Wakanda.
But you know what they won't do?
At the same time.
Fam, listen to me, fam. But you know what they won't do, right? Like the highest concentration of my whiteness was Irish. They won't mark down I'm part Irish, but they're going to mark down all the stuff that comes from Africa.
Right. And then at the same time, you're going to have second-generation immigrants who are either more assimilated or maybe who have parents who come from two different, you know, non-American countries. They're going to be putting down, in a lot of cases, African-American. So I would love to delve deeper into what the 2020 census means for DOS, because I've heard so many times people say, well, my parents are Nigerian and I was born in America, so I'm literally African American, and don't question me about that. So I think, given the fact that it plays so much into resource allocation, into politics, into marketing, into so many parts of our daily life and our future, that there needs to be a deeper examination of what this new format in the 2020 census might mean for us, if anything.
No, I agree. I agree. I really wish people. I will say this, fam. I really wish people didn't have to self-identify. I really wish we could use the records of their parents and their records, their immigration records, or their parents' immigration records. And if you have no immigration records, then you just here. And you just is what you is. I really wish we could just use the records as opposed to I always find it kind of problematic. I think it's an improvement though, because I need to ask that question. But I think I always find it problematic when people have to self-identify, especially if you immigrated here. If your parents immigrated here, there has to be a record. And I wish we could access those immigration records and use those for people who immigrated here first or second generation, and then have everybody else self-identify. But it is what it is.
Yep. Well, that's all, and I appreciate what you're doing, and this is a very important topic, and I think that our posture needs to change in terms of having our pride, knowing our history, and setting those rules of engagement.
I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate you reading those tweets, because I hadn't heard those. You get real loose. I would never get that loose in Nigeria talking about somebody else's culture. I would never get loose like that. I never would. It just would never, I just would never do it. Especially with everything that we're going through. With everything that we're going through in America as DOS. And we're going to listen. Man, y'all don't stop. Listen, I'm coming to 513. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Oh, thank you for taking my call, Dr. Carnell. This is Denise from Cincinnati, Ohio. I love you so much.
Thank you. Love you back.
Thank you for standing for me and my ancestors.
Got to.
Thank you for standing for me and my communities in my city. They just made it illegal to have tent cities or be homeless. So you got 10,000 mostly black males sleep just in the street, on the corners, here and there. But they can't stand on the corners at the entrance of freeways and beg for money like the white boys get to do.
What?
I'm just so appalled at the scavenger nature that social media has taken in the form of exploiting Black American pain for entertainment. And I think that people like the sister you discussed on Be Online, when you talk about Nigerian politics, they're the most corrupt. You never hear them talk about President Jonathan and how they steal not some of the money, all of the money. So one of the senators with like $4 million in his living room, hidden up under his bed.
He did. He did.
They were marrying 6-year-olds and 9-year-olds because of Quranic law and giving the girls fistulas. So most of the girls was dying at 15 and 16 years old. If you look at the Libyan slave trade today, the highest African nation population is Nigerian because of the Nigerian human traffickers working with the people to get them out of Africa to Europe. And they trick them into slavery to today. When we talked about Christianity even being the white man's religion, and yet run to the Yoruba religion, that was the culture that said, sell your child to the Babalawo. They do it still today. So when they come over here with that Nigerian pride, what are you exactly proud of?
Yep, I agree. And let me just say one thing. Somebody told me, and I haven't checked into it, that the Lovey at some point made fun of ghetto names. Right? And what I want to say is, y'all had a president named President Good Luck. President Good Luck. And why don't you make fun of President Good Luck? What kind of fool names people Good Luck? And all kind of weird names like that. See, but you don't want to do that. You want to come here and traffic and make fun of us, and everything that we're experiencing is the consequence of your people selling us here. Like our own Africans selling us over here, and what happened to us. No, that's not good enough.
And even their own cultural corruption till this day is destroying Nigeria, which is why they have to immigrate out. President Jonathan can't find a hospital in Nigeria to be treated at. He has to go to the United Kingdom. There is no hospital that the Nigerian doctors can work at.
and get the same income that they demand here in America. It's impossible. Meanwhile, we're here, descendants of slaves. Mass incarceration has destroyed our families. We have a music industry and an entertainment industry, again, they are making money off of an entertainment industry that is encouraging our children to kill each other for wealth, for that car. They're making money off of they're making gossip sites off of an entertainment industry that's saying your girls need to strip to go to college. Yet they'll have a Nigerian wedding and make it rain as if that's okay because it's African culture where they have this extreme wealth, and at these weddings they have these extreme weddings, just like they have crazy rich Asians, they have crazy rich Africans.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
Majority of their income, when you notice the politics they play in our communities, if they are in our communities, they have these liquor and cigarette and tobacco stores, that sell things that have no nutritional value, adding to our food deserts, while Flint, Michigan goes 1,500 days without clean water. And these people, I think because they think they're cute, but as you get wrong in the tooth, people are going to expect you to have some intelligence behind that fading beauty. And so these fake people like Angela Rye and Amanda Spears with these fake social commentaries and these fluff articles of things that make nonsense and no sense to any impact of our daily living. I mean, the bottom is falling out in our city. They literally took $10 million from the working class poor housing, eradicated that housing, and built $1 million condos on communities that were formerly African American, which means our voting district, which was already gerrymandered, so that Steve Shabbat, who is our representative in Congress, will forever be a Republican district. As long as the people are transient and homeless, we are forever a Republican district. The gerrymandering in Ohio is what got Trump in. And, no matter what he might do, Congress is not going to impeach him because of who is being represented in Congress. No taxation without proper representation. And how can you tax the people who are constantly working, constantly stressed out, constantly looking for affordable housing, quality food, accessible food? And these people don't talk about that stuff.
No, I agree.
All black woman.
I agree. And one of the things we have to...
She got popular by mimicking us.
Yeah, when you talk about Nigerians, one thing I will say too, Carla, is that a lot of these people don't talk about it because they got family in these administrations. Like, they got family in government. So part of the reason when we talk about why you don't talk about your government and why you don't, because they got family in there, but they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about that's where you get part of your money from. Like, all of this stuff, all of the stuff that's happening is just like we just getting scammed. We just getting scammed and scavengered. And by the time we as a group realize it, like it just, I swear to God, it broke my heart when I saw that little 60-second garbage, confused rant got like 1 million likes. It was just like, what's wrong with everybody? Is everybody crazy?
I appreciate you for your focus and dedication and keeping us politically informed in this modern age. It is very hard to navigate this, especially with all this social media and commentary and how they, like Antonio be telling us, this entertainment industry is masking our failure and masking our very real poverty, that is going to impact our children if we don't wake up to what America owes us in particular. Our people, the descendants of slaves, people who ran from the South to Chicago, people who built the Black Wall Street, it got bombed. People who did the move, it got bombed. Where our government has actively participated to keep us in this lower economic state. So I thank you, Dr. Yvette Cardell.
I appreciate you, fam.
I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you.
No,
thank you.
I just want to continue to admire.
Thank you. That was an informative call, fam. I appreciate it. I appreciate that call. That was an informative call, President Good Luck. But don't nobody say nothing about that. Don't nobody say nothing about that. Don't nobody. It's not even an issue. It's not even a problem. I'm gonna try to bring up a couple of images real quick. But yeah, it's just almost insane. I'm going to take 2 additional calls after this call. But it's so insane to me. Like the way in which we have allowed these people to kind of just skate. They just skate on us. Like, it's not like they're just skating on their own. No, you just skate. It don't matter. You skate on us. And like, we don't say anything. We say, well, you know what, Yvette? I think, I don't be asking you what you think, but you tell me, I think we just all in it together. What evidence do you have that we all in it together? What evidence has this life ever sent you to make you believe that we all in this together? I'm just trying to figure out. Because I ain't never seen it. And I pay attention. So I'm going to try to bring up some images real quick, fam. Just bear with me a second. Because I know the person talked about some tweets from Lovey. So, you know, people show themselves. There's no way, like, people always show themselves, fam. Like, if there's one thing we have to know, that it's just, we just have to know that people always reveal themselves. And the only thing you really have to do is wait around for the big reveal. And when the big reveal gets there, you just got to be there to know what it is, and you got to react. You just can't be like, well, the big reveal is here. I'm not going to do nothing about it. I'm not going to make no changes. I'm not going to navigate my life in a way that, like, understands that, or, like, you can't do it that way. That's not a way to do it. So, I appreciate all the callers, and I'm going to take a couple more calls before we go, but everybody, like, we seeing it. Like, somebody brought up, what is that? Lovey and her disrespect of what is that? Oh my God, look at this, like, look at this is the person that y'all are elevating. Shuck and jive game proper. Now she don't come from slaves or nothing. Looks like slave tap dancing over hot coals. Now this is before she put the mask all the way on. See, this is 2009, 2010. This is before you put the mask all the way on. The mask is tight now, but you done had it, man. Slave tap dancing. Come on, man. Here we go, 2011. 2011, on the 8th day of Kwanzaa, my true love gave to me a dashiki from the beauty supply. You just an awful person with really awful taste. This stuff ain't even funny. I ain't gonna lie. I will not be encouraging my kids to attend an HBCU. It's the African elitist in me. You should just go home, though. So I'm going to 617 now. 617, what's going on? Uh-oh.
Hey, Yvette, it's Reggie. What's going on?
What's going on, Reggie?
Hey, I appreciate you getting me in, man. I was going to chill, but I'm a little fired up. But, you know, to that brother from Guatemala that called, thank you. My Jamaican sister who called, thank you.
Yeah, the allies are wonderful.
I really appreciate the allies out there that's holding us down. I got people out here in Boston, you know, the sister from Panama who's organizing politically for reparations here. So the allies are out there, but we got some knuckleheads out here too.
Yeah.
And the tragedy with, you know, what they're trying to call an analysis from folks like, you know, Issa Rae and Amanda, you would think they never went to school. Like, both of them majored in African American studies.
Yeah.
It's like this rant that she did was nonsensical, and Lovey's blog today, it's like they're making these emotional arguments, and I'm looking at rants like these, I'm like, I don't know what's going on in these African American studies departments. Like, what are they reading? And
like she went like what you really realize is that there's like this whole thing that you all are better and you're more prepared. Like, Lovey can't write. Like, I remember reading like her book, like I'm Judging You, and it was awful. Like, for another show I did like in 2016. Like, and it's just like, it was awful. And it's just like, you all get all this credit for being smarter, but you ain't. And like, the problem is nobody told you, is like, you kind of slow. Like, and nobody wants to say, like, you're at best, you're like below average. And like, nobody wants to say that to you, and you get the benefit of that stereotype. Even her thing today, like, how do you, like, either you're stupid or you think I'm stupid. Because nobody said you weren't black. So saying that this is about blackness misses the point. So either you're stupid or you think I'm stupid. Either you're just throwing a straw man my way, or you don't know enough to know that what you just argued was a straw man. Like either you, one of the two things is true. And I'm a graduate of HBCU. So you said you wouldn't send your kid to one, but you sound like a graduate of a Koopa Loopa Koopa. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, what are you like how, like the way we've allowed these people to navigate some type of elitist space when they don't even have the capacity to be there.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I don't know what's going on in these universities. It's like I'm so glad I'm a college dropout at this point. It's emotional arguments that
yeah.
It's like, I'm going to say it like this. Like, at this point, just what I've been seeing coming out of these universities, especially when we're talking about African American studies, I don't want to hear about your degree no more. I want you to tell me the last book you read, the last study you read, the last data that you looked over. If you can't do that, if you can't show me your bookshelf, what you just read, you can't talk to me. Because these folks running around with these degrees are useless. It is a tragedy. Like I said, I'm a college dropout. It's a tragedy that I'm running around schooling politicians and PhDs. It makes no sense. What are y'all reading out there? Pick up some books and get into this data.
All right.
There's no reason that this should be happening. It's like you said, especially at the HBCUs.
Yep.
And she was pointing out earlier on the gram, and you touched on this, that the immigrants came here before. You know, it's like, but y'all need to understand something. Like, these people came during the civil rights struggle, during civil rights, during Jim Crow. If you came here after the fight was over, you can't talk to me. Garvey came here with something in his hand. Shirley Chisholm came here with something in her hand. Belafonte Portier came here with something in their hand. The other African countries that gained independence during that time were reaching out to us, came here with something in their hand. You don't get to talk to me if you're just coming here with your hand open just to take stuff. Like, what are you actually contributing?
Reggie, you done killed him now.
You can't talk to me after DOS and their allies made it safe for you to come outside in the first place. Look at the numbers on the spike in black immigrants post-civil rights. It exploded. Like, where was you at before? You knew I was here. Where was you at? You see what I'm saying, Yvette?
Yeah, you know I see what you're saying. You ain't got to tell me twice.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of double down on what you were saying, and just to answer this question, because I get it a lot in the discussions I'm having. It's like, who are you to get to tell me to be black, and how do you tell me what blackness means, and who gets to say who is what? I'm just going to make it clear, and you can deal with it, and you cannot deal with it. The African American who descended from chattel slavery in the United States is the sole arbiter of what blackness means in this country. If you or your ancestors got your post-civil rights, you get to talk after me. If you are African and you are not rooted,
that's the back of the line right there.
You do not get to talk to me.
That's the back of the line right there.
If you do not have a great-grandmother or grandfather buried here, I don't want to hear from you about what blackness means here. There's a specific history, experience, culture, politics, all of that comes from our generational experiences in this country. You either align with that and defer to us, or you're taking up space. That's all I got to say.
Boom! That's it. I appreciate you, Reggie. That's it. That's it. You either align and you help us, or you just taking up space. You don't get to lead. You don't get to dictate. You don't get to create something new. We already created the space for you to be here. You get to either align with us, and that means fall back in line. You're not going to be in the front of the line, boo-boo. Bop, bop. Fall back in line, or you're just taking up space. I'm going to 310 right now. 310, I'm coming to you.
What up, Yvette?
What's up, Tom?
This is Antonio. I guess I'll be the last call. You know, I'll just start off. Idris Elba, David Owalu, Sheeta Wally Ojefor, Love You Ajay, Issa Rae, and the list goes on. And I don't think we understand the consequence of them not understanding who we are. I mean, the audacity and of the possibility. I'm not going to say I know, but I mean, when you look at all of the things that line up, the audacity that the man who played Dr. Martin Luther King in Selma could have had a family that sold blacks into slaves, and no one has looked into it. No one has given us an answer. It's atrocious.
Yep.
That we went out and supported Black Panther about a Wakanda that was protected by a mimic of the Benin King, the Dahomey Benin King, about slave trading us into the transatlantic is awful. And I come back to Reggie's statement. You know what? He said, where were they at? You know, the booth. Reggie, that's because they didn't let him here before 1980. They didn't let him in the country. I'm not talking about right or wrong. I'm telling you, this booth is not this is not accidental. We were way too confrontational. You have to watch my interview with Sandy Garrity from Duke and what he says about that admissions officer, unnamed, at Duke, who says, I choose immigrants because they will be docile. We don't want to deal with the politics of black folk. We stand here at the edge of a cliff like you've never seen. Article just came out from Clark. Bunch of parents went down there. They told them it was going to be 4,000. You know, the gap was 4,000 for the board, for the child staying at the school, and it became 8,000. You got to write the check. You got to write the check. The only thing that will give you the money to write that check is reparation. And these people are in the way of that reparation. You make a choice. You can sit and watch Insecure and play, or you can wake up to the reality that Barack Obama, the name I left off that list, did nothing for your reparation. He left your child in the cold, driving Uber at night, huddled up in a car, hoping to do something with their degree. He changed nothing about student loans. He did nothing for black people. I don't think y'all get it yet. I got a kid. Eveto got a kid. Your kids are stars because these people are part of the problem. I'm not playing. You can sit up and laugh and giggle and watch Insecure and support Lovey and everybody get a check and let this lady, I don't even know her name, you know, whatever, rant. Or you can go read the cover of Law. You can go read the cover of Law. I'm interviewing Richard Rothstein next week. October 6th, I think I interview him. I don't get paid to do that. I do that so y'all can have information. I believe Byron is now the third richest African American in the nation. I've interviewed him and gave y'all the tidbits that most people don't share with y'all. Interviewed Sandy Garrity, Thomas Shapiro. And you're going to put up some lady who's just talking? Or Lovey? She don't know nothing. Look at those tweets. Those tweets that have you tweet Shonda Rhimes tomorrow morning in mass that you do not want this lady to have a show with those tweets. But will you do it? Will you do it?
Yep.
Do you understand the importance of an anchor culture? See, an anchor culture allows you to do something that I can't do. See, my mama from Mississippi, Brooksville. My daddy from Alabama. I don't got no secondary outlet where I can just fade out and make it about Senegalese, or make it about Grenada, or make it about something else other than these black folks right here under my feet. I tell you all this stuff. I do all this data. This don't make me likable with the people I know.
No.
I'm putting concepts together that ain't nobody put together ever on the internet or in academia. Ain't nobody talked about bully dating or anchor culture or any of these concepts. You tell me why. Look here. I'm going to tell you like it is. Y'all going to need reparations. Ain't no other path. Everybody say, what's the solution? I'm telling you the numbers are too gappy. Like, you can't make it up with labor, and you're not going to get no inheritance. You need a positioning. But these people don't want you positioning. When I say these people, there's no new immigrant, including Barack Obama, that wants you positioned the way that we're trying to position. It's not in their interest.
Yep.
It's not in their interest if they're Kenyan or Nigerian or Grenadian for American DOS to come up with that title and say to the American government, you must preferentially position us based on being American DOS. So then why are you aligning yourself with this? See, the girl on the thing, I never even seen her talk before, but what she was talking about is speaking for black women. So black women, this is the challenge to you. You can watch Insecure and have a good time about relationships, or you can read this article about Clark and realize reparations take preference, because your kid is about to get kicked out of Clark. I'm saying to you that this is more than blackness. This You got to start asking these questions. We have allowed people against us to speak for us. But Barack Obama's comments about reparations to Ta-Nehisi Coates were not only unacceptable, they were ignorant. I don't care that he was the president of the U.S. He don't understand the U.S. from those comments. Do you understand what we built here? What we are here? Our bodies provided all of the wealth. Our bodies provided all of the advantage. And now our families have all of the costs. There are more black men, African American, DOS men incarcerated than all women globally. And we talking about, well, they must do more crimes. That's not about crimes, dude. It's only 20 million. I'm talking about 20 million people producing more prisoners than 4 billion people. That's about a systemic choice to take the single government slavery and make them the outlet for all this lack of opportunity during that. I just kind of wanted to just chime in because a lot of people talking, they don't have enough basis. They need to go read that Color of Law, Color of Money. They need to get in the reality that American is going to play this like agriculture outlet thing. You're not going to be too like bicultural, all this stuff. No, you need to win it this way. And if you ain't with it, that's okay. Just don't make no more shows and don't make all the tweets. Y'all pull up them lovey tweets on the way out too, because it was crazy. You know, African elitists and all these tweets about Kwanzaa and the supply store. These people making fun of us.
They absolutely are. They absolutely are. All right, Tom, I appreciate you. I mean, as usual. I mean, y'all saw the tweets. Just making fun of how lost we are. And just revealing yourself as an elitist. That's the last thing we need, honestly, is more elitists. There we go. I was saying the last thing we need is more elitists. So, you know, the music came on, but what Tom was saying was that the last.
So the thing is like, well, I can eat macaroni and I can eat this, so I'm this. It doesn't. You don't understand. And so what happens is that people see that as being African American. So African American is collard greens. African American is knowing how to throw down. African American is macaroni and cheese. And so nobody really understands in terms of what we're talking about, systemic marginalization, oppression from slavery, redlining, Reconstruction. You don't see it as that. We have like pigeonhole African American in terms of collard greens and peach cobbler. And that's just minimize everything that we are.
And it's a trip because the article continues on in terms of framing her through, this is the way she describes it. This is the article, I Am African. I have also been blessed with a strong Zimbabwean mother who has taught me about struggle and truly starting from nothing. She has sculpted the African woman I am. My father was born and raised in Brooklyn. He takes great pride in exposing his lessons, way of living, and understanding of life onto me and my sibling. He teaches me strength in knowing who I am as a Black American, the importance of being book smart and street smart. He has sculpted the Black American woman I am. So fundamentally, what she's acknowledging is that there's a distinctive difference. But when it comes to that affirmative action application, we want to all say it's the same again. So you live a life that's fractured until it's time to actually disseminate benefit. And the fundamental problem is that these benefits were built not based on color. They weren't just given to people because they're brown. They were distinctively to deal with a redress for a destruction of a people, a destruction of a culture. And I think by letting people play the fence, we end up with nobody on our side. I believe that part of what I see inside of this article and inside of this terminology and inside of so many, and I'm not saying everyone is the same, don't get me wrong, but generally what I see is the veneer of American Blackness, cornbread and Beyonce songs, becomes everything for people instead of the guts, which is the legacy of being locked out and used. You know what I'm saying, Yvette? And Yvette, we have a caller. I want to take this caller. Caller, what is your name? Where are you calling from? I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I saw your post about the Black nurses being replaced. I can totally attest to that.
Yeah. I haven't framed that yet, so it's gonna let me frame that for everybody. So essentially, so many of whether it be Caribbeans or Africans, they came here as a result of particularly a shortage of nurses. There was a shortage of nurses. I was going to get to that, and I'm still going to cover that a little later. And it happened through the late 70s, throughout the 80s, and into the early 90s. And because we have a form of like chain immigration here, they could bring a whole family with them. And what's weird about it all is we had enough black women here to do that job. They just the country had locked them out of opportunity. The country had locked them out of opportunity. So like, meaning, I'm gonna read a little section to give you guys a context, but like, there's one story where the first black lady to become a nurse, she had to do 20 years, I think, of internship at a hospital that only let one black person actually take that internship. So you fundamentally had created a shortage of black nurses by not letting black descendant of slave women become nurses. And to address it, you imported nurses. You didn't address the damage that you did to a community. I mean, you want to give your opinion on it? Because now I framed it for you.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I'm looking at all, like, the Filipino nurses. I mean, they outnumber us 9 to 1. Like, there's, like, 9 Filipino nurses to 1 nurse. And if there's a black nurse, they are African. And it's just crazy. They're not letting us into nursing school, especially in California. They're just not letting you in because they can use other races to fit that affirmative action quota. And it's just crazy. And we need our people in the healthcare field. I mean, there's so many times I've had to step in and speak up for black people because they just don't know. They're not interpreting the data, their healthcare issues. They're not interpreting them for them to make an informed decision. And it's just scary.
Yeah, I mean, what is your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Tom. My name is Marian Odesanya. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you so much for calling in.
I listen to your show, Religiously You and Yvette. I totally understand what you guys are saying. I'm a first generation American. I constantly fight with my family about the word akata because I'm married to an American.
Wait, back up a little bit. Because I love that you called in. I appreciate you calling in. I know Yvette does as well. Because these are allies. When you can get an honest discussion going on. When you say you fight with your family, is this a word that was used growing up? Just to be honest, so we can get a clear discussion going. Like to describe, how were black people described to you?
Well, black people, for example, my mom growing up told me, don't bring home no shenanigans, meaning no ghetto fingers, no long hair, ghetto fingers, no people that don't speak white people English. You know what I'm saying? Just ratchet people. That was my understanding of it. But it's frustrating because just for the simple fact that a lot of Africans, they are okay with being that chosen Negro. Like it's okay for me to be that special token Negro. They're okay with that, and it's not fair.
And you know what's a trip, caller? I'm gonna chime in here because I think Yvette can chime in as well. What's interesting is in my household, my mother never once. I'm going through my whole life. My father's actually married to a Belizean, but my mother not once ever said anything derogatory about an African. I actually had 2 full African friends that weren't even mixed, and there was that's what's so interesting about this whole idea that black people here have some kind of climate that is derogatory towards Africans because it doesn't exist culturally. But when you think about, because I put this in the frame of even the visas, the way the visas work here. Yeah. We get 1 year in Nigeria, but you guys get 2 years here. That doesn't make any sense other than the fact that they don't want us in Nigeria. And so
but it's also, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's also, you also have to look at how Americans are portrayed even in their movies and their cultures. It's yo, 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 hey baby, what's up? Hat backwards, you know what I'm saying? Smoking a cigarette, just buffoonery. And we're all not like that.
Well, I'm looking at the YouTube, and one guy just asked. He wants to hear a little bit more about your experience growing up, as much as you feel comfortable. Like,
sure.
Did you hear things about black people being syphilis and lazy or anything of the sort?
My dad, like I know my dad, he works for the CDC. Well, my mom, she capitalized on that nursing. My mom, I have 5 aunts. They're all nurses. All of them.
So nursing was the way that was the doorway in a way.
Oh yeah, that was Tone. Let me tell you, Nigerians, that's how they're getting into this country. Nigerian men, they come here. They don't work. They bring their wives here. They put their wives through nursing school. They don't work. They put the nurse. They make their wives go to nursing school, and they're the breadwinners. And that's how it is. And those fools be working like 7 days a week.
Man.
And that's how they maintain their lifestyle.
Caller, what I want to do now is just go to a break on that and let everybody sit, and we'll come back to a discussion. Thank you so much for calling in. Yvette, we're going to keep you on the line and keep this discussion rolling.